Chapter 1. It is late winter. After the heavy snow, the entire Yin capital is covered in a layer of silver. Yin capital is extremely large and can accommodate millions of people. The mansion of the East vanquishing Prince Chinda, who controls the 3 eastern region counties, is in this Yin capital. The East vanquishing Prince's mansion occupies an extremely large area. The main gate is wide open during the day and at night. The mansion's main gate is incomparably wide, enough for 6 or 7 people to enter side by side. On both sides of the main gate, there are 2 bare-chested brave men standing about 2 meters tall. These 2 men are like stone sculptures. Their cold eyes sweep through the passing crowd. On their broad backs, there is a huge blood-red saber. At a glance, that blood-red saber is about 1.5 meters long. In late winter, snowflakes cover the ground, and the temperature is frighteningly low. The river has already frozen, but these 2 men are bare-chested. However, this is not the most frightening thing. What is even more frightening is that there is a ferocious tiger next to each of these 2 men. The tiger's whole body is a flame-like crimson red. Its body is about 2 meters long. When its iron whip-like tail suddenly sweeps, it makes the air vibrate. The tiger's eyes emit a cold glint. This tiger is the so-called fierce tiger. Suddenly, 2 other men walk out of the East vanquishing Prince's mansion. These 2 men are also bare-chested. Each of them is leading a ferocious fierce tiger. They have come to change shifts. Outside the mansion, Yin capital's aristocrats and commoners all consciously walk around the East vanquishing Prince's mansion. In a secluded small courtyard inside the East vanquishing Prince's mansion, a middle-aged man in black is sitting on a stone bench. On his lap sits a cute little boy. In front of the middle-aged man stand 12 people. These 12 people are either old men, beautiful women, or young men. But they have one thing in common. These 12 people are all wearing purple. Father, why did you call so many teachers here? Chinyu, who has just turned 6 years old, sits on his father's lap. His hand is randomly squeezing a snowball, and he looks at his father in puzzlement. Chinda stroked Chinyu's head lovingly, then raised his head to look at the 12 people, and said indifferently, "You have been teaching you for some time. All right, don't worry about anything, just say whatever you think." The 12 people looked at each other. Then, an old man with a white beard stepped forward and said respectfully, "Reporting to Your Highness, we have observed from various aspects. The 3rd prince is only slightly interested in strange techniques. However, he has no interest in the ways of a superior. According to our judgment, it's impossible for the 3rd prince to become a perfect ruler." It seemed a little arbitrary to make such an assertion, based on only a short period of contact with the boy. However, Chinda didn't doubt it at all. Chinyu heaves a long sigh. He looks at the ignorant Chinyu and says with a bitter smile, "I can see that you are as like his mother. He has no interest in worldly power. But on the path of cultivation he is." Chinda stopped abruptly. He waved his hand and said, "I've troubled you during this period of time. You can leave the mansion now. Your Highness, we'll take our leave." The 12 people in purple bowed at the same time, then left the small, secluded courtyard one by one. At the moment, there are only Chinda and his son Chinyu in the courtyard. Chinda is silent. Sometimes he looks at Chinyu on his lap. At least the 6-year-old Chin, you still can't understand the meaning in his eyes. What's wrong with father? Why isn't he talking? Chinyu thinks to himself. But Chinyu is very well behaved and doesn't disturb his father. He didn't have a mother since he was a child. In Chinyu's heart, the most important people are his father and his other 2 elder brothers. For a very long time, Chinda has been sitting, and Chinyu has been quietly sitting on his father's lap. Suddenly the cry of a crane rises. A white red-crowned crane is flying in the sky. A handsome middle-aged man with an immortal air is sitting on the crane. In a short while, the red-crowned crane lands in the courtyard. "Brother Feng, the problem with yours Dantian, can you think of a way?" As soon as Chinda sees this middle-aged man, he immediately stands up and asks anxiously. Seeing Chinda like this, Fenjiazi naturally knows about his good friend Chinda's situation. He can only sigh and say, "Your Highness, I've already told you that Yuer has no hope in practicing. His Dantian is very strange. He can't accumulate internal energy, so naturally he can't practice. This kind of dantian is simply innate. It's hard to find even 1 in a billion people. I can't do anything about it. Hearing this result, Chinda slowly sits down and ponders for a long time. Father, what's internal energy? So what if my dantian can't accumulate internal energy? Just now those teachers said something about a superior. What does that mean? The 6-year-old Chinyu opens his eyes wide and asks doubtfully. He remembers clearly what was said just now. Chinda smiles bitterly in his heart, but on the surface he comforts. Don't ask so much. You don't like to learn this and that, and like to go to Misty Villa, right? Chinyu's eyes immediately brighten like the bright stars in the night sky. I don't need to learn those boring books. Misty Villa, I like that hot spring. I also like to watch the stars and the sunrise. Chinda says with a smile. Good. Since you like it, I'll give Misty Villa to you. Also the 1,000 elite soldiers will be under your command. If you want anything, you can directly tell your Grandpa Lien. Good, very good. While Misty Villa is mine, I can soak in that hot spring every day. It's so comfortable. Chinyu is so excited that his face turns red. The smile on Chinda's face is completely fake, but Chinyu doesn't notice it. It's fine as long as you like it. You go back to sleep first. When you want to go to Misty Villa, just tell your Grandpa Lien. Chinda pats Chinyu's head with a smile. Goodbye, father. Goodbye, Uncle Feng. Chinyu waves his hand and runs straight to his room. Fenjiazi smiles as he watches Chinyu enter the room. Afterwards, his face suddenly becomes grave and stern. With a flash, his body disappears from the courtyard like a wisp of smoke. Fenjiazi also follows him like a floating feather. At the moment, there are only 3 people in the secret chamber of the prince's mansion. They are Chinda, Fenjiazi and a scholar in black, who is holding a folding fan. Your Highness, have you really made up your mind? The scholar in black looks at Chinda and asks doubtfully. Chinda says with a nod. Can't become a leader, nor can he become a Xiantian level expert. It's better for him not to get involved. His strange dantian, alas, perhaps the only thing I can give him is 10 years of happy and peaceful days. When we start the final plan, won't be able to live a peaceful life. Fenjiazi thinks for a while, then decides to say it out. Your Highness, are you really going to carry out your plan? You should know what will happen if you carry it out, right? Fenjiazi asks again. Chinda's face immediately freezes. His eyes glitter with coldness. Whether it's for the ancestors of the Qin clan or for Jingyi, this plan must be carried out. Jingyi left me 3 sons. Has a problem with his dantian. But Feng and Zheng are good at martial arts and literature. They're good enough for big things. Su Yuan, have you started to use the first hidden pawn? The scholar in black, Su Yuan, closes his folding fan and says with a smile. Don't worry, Your Highness. Everything is under control. Good, very good. Chinda's eyes flash with astonishing killing intent. East vanquishing Prince Chinda lives in the Qianlong continent. The Qianlong continent is so large that nobody has been able to figure it out. The main reason is that the easternmost part of the Qianlong continent is the boundless untainted land. The untainted land is filled with towering mountains and lofty ridges, forests and countless demonic beasts. The deeper you go, the more formidable the demonic beasts are. This is because even the Shangxian on the Qianlong continent cannot explore the entire boundless untainted land. To the west of the boundless untainted land are the 3 big countries. The Chu dynasty, the Ming dynasty and the Han dynasty have a combined population of nearly 10 billion people. Their land area is even more frighteningly large. Among the 3 dynasties, the Chu dynasty is the most powerful. In the Chu dynasty, there is a very outstanding clan, the Qin clan. The Qin clan occupies the 3 eastern region counties of the Chu dynasty, which are close to the boundless untainted land. The Qin clan has been passed down for several hundred years, and has an extremely deep foundation in the 3 eastern region counties. Even the emperor of the Chu dynasty would find it very difficult to deal with it. Moreover, the Qin clan has a special type of army called the Fierce Tiger Army. Fierce Tiger is a branch of the Tiger Army. Its whole body is crimson, and it is relatively large. The method to breed fierce tigers on a large scale is one of the Qin clan's most important secrets. The Qin clan controls an army of 600,000, and 50,000 of them are the Fierce Tiger Army. Every warrior of the Fierce Tiger Army is riding on a fierce tiger. The fierce tiger's attack power is already very frightening, and with the addition of the warriors, they are invincible. The roar of 50,000 fierce tigers alone can cause the enemy's morale to plummet. 50,000 fierce tiger army soldiers can easily annihilate 100,000 ordinary cavalrymen. On the Qianlong continent, military power is supreme. The three big countries all have their own Xiuxianists. In the eyes of mortals, each Xiuxianist is an immortal-like existence. Once a flying sword is released, it can cut off a person's head from thousands of li away. Riding a flying sword and soaring in the ninth heaven. Which one of these is not an immortal-like ability? Misty Villa is built on Mount Donglan. Mount Donglan is more than 3,000 m high and can be considered a high mountain. 2 years later, Qin Yu is now 8 years old. He has also grown a lot taller. His eyes sometimes flash with wisdom, but there is a hint of melancholy in the depths of his eyes. At the moment, Qin Yu is walking alone on a mountain path. There is a black baby eagle on his shoulder. Xiaohei, it's been 2 years. In these 2 years, Father has only come to see me once. Qin Yu bites his lips and says to the baby eagle on his shoulder. Qin Yu found this baby eagle 1 year ago when he was touring Mount Donglan, so he took it with him. With the baby eagle accompanying him, Qin Yu will not be too lonely. Before he was 6 years old, he was often accompanied by his father. After he was 6 years old, he has only seen his father once in the 2 years after he was 6 years old. The black eagle flaps its wings and strokes Qin Yu's tender face. Qin Yu immediately smiles. After walking for a while, Qin Yu suddenly sees a pregnant woman in front of him, who is carrying broken wood with difficulty. He immediately says to the black eagle, "Xiaohei, let's go help this auntie, okay?" The black eagle immediately flaps its wings and shakes on Qin Yu's shoulder. Qin Yu immediately smiles and runs quickly towards the pregnant woman. "Auntie, let me help you carry the wood." Qin Yu looks at the pregnant woman and says. Hearing this, the pregnant woman puts down the bundle of wood on her body and wipes the sweat on her head. She looks at Qin Yu, who is obviously still a child, and smiles. "Little boy, thank you. Auntie can carry it myself. There is only 1 mile left until we reach our small village." After saying this, she carries the wood again and continues to move forward. "Little boy, I am not little. I am 8 years old this year. I can definitely carry this wood." Qin Yu looks at the sweat on the pregnant woman's face. He actually snatches the wood and suddenly carries it on his back. A bundle of wood is naturally not heavy for an ordinary person, but for an 8-year-old child, it is very heavy. However, Qin Yu often soaks in the natural hot spring of Misty Villa, so his body is much stronger than an 8-year-old child's. He is actually able to carry it. "Auntie, look, didn't I carry it?" "Humph, you're still saying that I'm a child," Qin Yu said proudly. At this moment, his immature little face was covered with dust and dirty. The pregnant woman is stunned, but then she smiles. "You are quite strong, but it is still 1 mile. Little boy, you definitely can't carry it. Let auntie carry it." "Who says I can't carry it?" Qin Yu sees the pregnant woman reach out her hand and hurriedly runs forward. He then turns back and says, "Auntie, I have been to East Hazy Mountain many times. I know there is a small village 1 mile from here. It must be yours. Let's go, let's go. You are not as fast as me." The pregnant woman's face is full of smiles. This child, I wonder whose family he is. With a child like this, his parents will definitely be very happy. In the beginning, it was not difficult for Qin Yu to carry this bundle of wood on his back. But after walking for a while, Qin Yu felt that his legs began to go soft. After all, he was going up a mountain, and he was carrying wood on his back. Even though Qin Yu's body was strong, he was still only 8 years old. After a while, Qin Yu's legs suddenly trembles. "Little boy." The pregnant woman is shocked. "It's fine. This is very simple." Qin Yu turns back and squeezes out a smile. His tone is like that of Hercules, but the mountain path is uneven. Qin Yu's foot touches a stone, and he can't help but sway. Pung! Chinyu can't help but fall down. The pregnant woman immediately comes forward, grabs the wood, and helps Chinyu up. Chinyu's face is covered in dust, and his face is dirty. Chinyu looks at the pregnant woman very sullenly and says, "Auntie, actually, I can still carry it. I was hit by a stone just now." "Alright, Auntie knows you can carry it. However, the village is just up ahead." "Thank you." The pregnant woman carries the wood. Seeing that Chinyu is not injured, she helps Chinyu wipe his face clean. She carefully exhorts Chinyu. After Chinyu nods and agrees, she returns to the village. Chinyu looks at the village, which is about 100 meters in front of him. He frowns and says, "Xiao, we are almost there." Chinyu immediately smiles. But Auntie is much more relaxed now. We reached the village in a short while. Chinyu smiles very brightly. It is a smile from the bottom of his heart. The three figures in the dark look at each other. They are the experts who secretly protect Chinyu. Chinyu is the son of the East Vanquishing Prince, the dignified third prince. How can he be allowed to run around in the mountains alone? The third prince is still a child, but his heart is so kind. How could His Highness be willing to leave the third prince in the Misty Mountain Villa? He only comes to see him once every 2 years. Every time he sees the third prince sitting on the mountain peak in the middle of the night, his little body in the cold wind at night, I feel uncomfortable in my heart. Another figure nods and says, "Every time third prince looks up at the night sky, his expression makes my heart ache." His Highness. Alas. Forget it. What His Highness wants to do is not something we can know. We just need to protect third prince. Suddenly, at the foot of the mountain path, a burly black man with eyes as big as copper bells is riding an extremely ferocious red tiger. He rushes over at an extremely fast speed. Seeing Chinyu, he shouts from afar, "Third prince, first prince and second prince are here. Big brother and second brother are here." Chinyu's eyes are shining with excitement. He immediately runs towards the burly black man and climbs onto the tiger's back. He is so excited that his face is red. He urgently urges, "Uncle Wang, let's go. Let's go back to Misty Villa." That burly man hugs Chinyu and rides the fierce tiger down the mountain, leaving behind a trail of dust. Chapter 2. Misty Villa was located halfway up the East Hazy Mountain. On the surface, there were groups of brave soldiers patrolling and protecting the villa, but the hidden experts were completely unknown to outsiders. Moreover, this Misty Villa was the villa of the East Vanquishing Prince, who would be tired of living and dare to invade. Outside the gate of Misty Villa, there were 2 huge stone lions. 2 warriors wearing black armor were standing on both sides of the gate, scanning the outside. They stood proudly like lone pine trees. Their sturdy bodies naturally emitted a murderous aura. It was a murderous aura that only real warriors who had experienced bloody battlefields could possess. Third prince. The 2 black-armored warriors suddenly knelt down on one knee and said respectfully. Chinyu quickly jumped down from the tiger's back. The black eagle was very stable on Chinyu's shoulder. At this moment, Chinyu was obviously very excited and happy. He quickly ran inside the gate and said to the 2 warriors with a smile, "Uncles, quickly get up." The 2 black-armored warriors also stood up. Looking at Chinyu's small figure rushing into the villa, there was a trace of concern in their eyes. He big brother and second brother must be soaking in the hot spring. Chinyu simply does not need to think too much. He runs straight to the hot spring in the west garden of Misty Villa while muttering, "Humph, humph." These 2 fellas dared to enter the hot spring at will without the permission of the Grand Villa Master of Misty Villa. In a moment, Chinyu had already rushed to the west courtyard of the villa. With his hands on his hips, Chinyu suddenly points with his right hand and glares at the 2 people in the hot spring in high spirits. He says, "Hey, you 2 are really daring. Without my permission, you've entered the important area of the hot spring." Chinyu only has time to let out a loud cry before he is suddenly pulled by a hand. His body immediately loses balance, and he falls into the hot spring. "I haven't taken off my clothes yet." Following Chinyu's shout, he had already fallen into the hot spring with a bang sound, splashing countless water. The black eagle on Chinyu's shoulder flapped its wings in a hurry. Fortunately, it did not fall into the hot spring. Otherwise, this future eagle would become a drowned rat. Hee hee, little you actually dare to be arrogant in front of your second brother and big brother. This is really too much. Your second brother and big brother are suffering to death every day. Little you on the other hand, have this hot spring every day. Moreover, it's the Misty Villa's hot spring. A young man said very indignantly. However, deep within his eyes, there was a trace of a smile. Pooh! Chinyu suddenly spat out the water in his mouth. His entire body was completely soaked. Chinyu angrily looked at the youth in front of him. Second brother, it really was you. I knew it was you. Only you would drag me down with you. Big brother wouldn't do that. Chinyu quickly took off his shirt and trousers. Wearing only his underwear, he soaked in the hot spring, and looked at his second brother, Qin Zheng, with dissatisfaction. At this moment, Qin Zheng was only a 12-year-old boy, but his face always had a kind smile. He always made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Only in front of his own brothers would Qin Zheng have the playfulness of a young boy. You said big brother? Haha, he is about to fall asleep. Qin Zheng said with a loud laugh. Second brother, do you think your big brother is a pig? How could he fall asleep so quickly? On the other side of the hot spring, a grave and stern young man who was quietly lying down with his eyes closed opened his eyes and said to Chinyu. He then looked at Chinyu with a smile and said, Little you, this Misty Villa's hot spring is really miraculous. Last time I soaked here, the scars on my body were actually a lot lighter. Only faint traces could be seen. If I soaked here for a few more days, I reckon my whole body would be the same as yours. This was Chinyu's big brother Qin Feng. This year, he was already 16 years old. Because he practiced martial arts, he looked as if he was 18 or 19 years old. Big brother Qin Feng was someone Chinyu greatly admired. The last time he saw Big Brother, he saw with his own eyes how Big Brother smashed a thigh-thick wooden stake into pieces with a single punch. Chinyu was very envious. Hearing Big Brother talking about the miraculous effects of the hot spring, Chinyu very proudly stood up, stuck out his small chest, raised his small head and proudly said, Of course. Do I need to say more about the miraculous effects of this Misty Villa's hot spring? Humph, don't you know who the master of Misty Villa is? He is your little brother. You little brat. Big brother Qin Feng and second brother Qin Zheng both laughed. Qin Yu and his big brother and second brother had not seen each other for a long time, so they started to play with each other. However, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng gave way to Qin Yu a little bit. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng both doted on their little brother very much. They did not have a mother, so naturally, they cared more about their little brother. After playing around for a long time, Qin Yu also lay down comfortably in the hot spring quietly. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng also lay down. Big brother, second brother, aren't you very busy? How come you have the chance to come here? Qin Yu asked. Father, Qin Feng seemed to realize that he had said something wrong, so he immediately said, Actually, there's nothing important. It's just that there's nothing to do in the army for the time being, so I came back. Father also allowed me to find second brother, so I brought him here. Qin Zheng also nodded and said to Qin Yu smilingly, That's right. You don't know that this time I also tried my best to squeeze in some time. But even so, I only have half a day to rest. After half a day, I still have to go back. Me too. After half a day, I also have to go back with second brother. Qin Feng said apologetically. Oh, only half a day. Qin Yu responded. He looked a little lonely. The excitement and naughtiness he had just now had completely disappeared. Qin Yu only had 3 relatives, his father and 2 older brothers. His father was very busy, and only came here once in 2 years. Now that he finally saw his 2 older brothers, he would be alone again after half a day. Perhaps there would also be that Xiao Hei by the hot spring. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng exchanged a look. They both felt very helpless in their hearts. Big brother, when father went to the boundless untainted land, did he teach you a lot of ways to lead troops? Qin Yu suddenly laughed again and asked at once. I know father is very good at leading troops. Grandpa Lian often told me that. Yes, father is indeed very good at leading troops. I had to practice military chess with father for half a year, before I could barely meet his requirements. Qin Feng seemed to recall the days in the past and said unconsciously, "Father is really very good at leading troops." Big brother. Qin Zheng took a look at Qin Feng. Qin Feng's heart suddenly jumped. He could not help smiling bitterly in his heart. He knew he had misspoken. Qin Yu did not seem to mind at all. Instead, he looked very excited. He began to talk with Qin Zheng and Qin Feng about what had happened to them these days. The three brothers talked for a long time in the hot spring. After dinner, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng were about to leave. Outside Misty Villa, Qin Yu, dressed in a black brocade robe, looked at Qin Feng and Qin Zheng in the distance, and waved his hands repeatedly. Big brother, second brother, goodbye. Qin Yu's eyes glittered with reluctance. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng turned around and smiled at Qin Yu. Then the two of them rode on two fierce tigers. Behind them, nearly 100 elite soldiers also rode on fierce tigers. In a short while, they had already disappeared on the mountain road without a trace. Under the mountain road, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng were riding on fierce tigers, walking side by side. Big brother, this time you said something wrong. Xiao Yu doesn't like conspiracies and other tactics. Moreover, because of the problem with his dantian, he can't practice to become a general. Because of this, he can't practice martial arts. Father spends all his energy on us, but Xiao Yu rarely sees him. He's all alone. Tell me, father, and you have been practicing military chess for half a year. How do you think Xiao Yu will feel? Qin Zheng said to Qin Feng very angrily. Qin Feng forced a smile and said, "Second brother, I didn't pay attention for a moment. If I say it out loud, I'll regret it too." Suddenly, Qin Feng's face became grave and stern. Second brother, Xiao Yu was born with a problem with his dantian. He can't practice martial arts and can't protect himself. We must protect him well. We absolutely can't let him be bullied by anyone. Whoever dares to bully Xiao Yu, I'll definitely make him regret being born into this world. Qin Zheng's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. The two brothers, with the guards behind them, left Mount Donglan in a short while and rushed towards Yin capital. Late at night, on the top of Mount Donglan, in the chilly wind, a small and thin figure was sitting on the top of the mountain. On his shoulder, a black baby eagle was sitting there quietly. Qin Yu just looked at the stars in the sky. In his eyes, there was a maturity that far surpassed that of his peers. Every day, he read books alone in his study or pondered by himself. This made Qin Yu's thinking far beyond that of an 8-year-old child. "Xiaohei." Qin Yu suddenly spoke, but his eyes were still looking at the stars in the sky. The black eagle on Qin Yu's shoulder moved a little. Its pitch-black eyes turned a couple of times, but it did not know why its little master had called him. Qin Yu's face suddenly showed a hint of a smile, a brilliant and happy smile. "Xiaohei, do you know? When I was very, very young, father was often by my side. He also cared for me a lot. Later on, those 12 teachers came. Father let me learn from them. Although I didn't like to learn those things, I still tried my best to learn them, so that father would be happy. I learned those words very quickly. Father even praised me as a child prodigy. But later on, Qin Yu became silent. When I was 6 years old, I remember clearly. In the quiet courtyard of the prince's mansion, those 12 teachers said something about me not being able to become a leader. Later on, Uncle Feng also said that there was a problem with my dantian. I was unable to accumulate internal energy, and was unable to cultivate. Then I came to Misty Villa. Later on, father no longer valued me or cared about me. At that time, I didn't know what dantian meant. I didn't know what a leader meant. I thought that father really let me come here to play, but Qin Yu lowers his head and bites his lips. His eyes are full of melancholy. In the last 2 years, I've also asked those uncles out of curiosity about the meaning of dantian and superior. I think I should understand why father no longer values me. Qin Yu became silent again. He raised his head and looked at the stars in the sky. I really don't like those scheming books. Really, I have forced myself. I really, really want to see father's smile. I want to hear father's affirmation and praise for me. But those scheming, vicious scheming books, I force myself to read them. I know those scheming tricks, but I can't do it. I can't do it. Father, I really can't do it. Qin Yu cried in a low voice. His thin and weak body trembled. Xiao He stared at Qin Yu with his black eyes. He wiped Qin Yu's face with his small wings. Qin Yu turned his head to look at Heiying on his shoulder. He suddenly hugged Heiying and held him in his arms. Heiying was very quiet in Qin Yu's arms. He seemed to know the mood of the little master at the moment. Xiao He, I really want to hear Father's praise. I want to see Father's happy smile. I really want. Qin Yu murmured in a low voice. In a dark place on the top of the mountain, the three experts who secretly protected Qin Yu sighed. Suddenly, a Lu Xing cut through the starry sky. The light was dazzling. For a moment, the light of Lu Xing surpassed that of any other star in the starry sky. Lu Xing. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly brightened. He immediately let go of Xiao He in his arms. He stood up, closed his eyes tightly and clasped his hands in front of him. Let Father care about me, just like how he treated big brother and second brother. I'm not afraid of being beaten or punished. I'm fine as long as he doesn't ignore me. Qin Yu slowly opened his eyes and looked at Lu Xing, who had already reached the end of the world. Father said that if I make a wish in front of Lu Xing, it will come true. Father won't lie to me. It will definitely come true. Looking at the starry sky, Qin Yu's young face was full of determination. Suddenly, a light bulb lit up in Qin Yu's mind. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly brightened. He suddenly patted his head. Ah, I'm so stupid. Civil and martial arts, civil and martial arts. I can't do civil and martial arts, but I can't do martial arts? Uncle Wang said that there are countless internal strength cultivation methods in the world. Maybe there is one suitable for my dantian. Even if there isn't, does practicing martial arts necessarily require internal strength? After all, Qin Yu was only an 8-year-old child. Although he had read a lot of books alone, and his mind had matured a lot, he was still just a child. In the past, because Fen Jiuzi had said that there was a problem with the dantian, Qin Yu was unable to practice martial arts. This had formed a fixed mindset in Qin Yu's mind. Only now did he wake up. Was it really impossible to practice martial arts with a strange dantian? Yes, as long as I work hard, an iron pestle can be ground into a needle. This was what Father said. As long as I work hard, I will definitely succeed. Qin Yu nodded heavily and said to himself. His eyes were full of incomparable confidence and determination. Xiao He, let's go back to the villa. Qin Yu did what he said. With a goal in mind, everything would be different. At the moment, the black eagle on Qin Yu's shoulder seemed to be very happy. It flapped its wings again and again. Qin Yu jumped and ran towards the misty villa. A moment later, 3 black figures flashed and chased after Qin Yu like 3 smoke. Chapter 3. Who is it? A black-armored warrior of Misty Villa shouts coldly. The other black-armored warrior also looks at the figure in the distance. Only after a while do the 2 black-armored warriors see clearly that the newcomer is unexpectedly third Prince Qin Yu. They cannot help being shocked, but they still kneel down on one knee and say respectfully, Third Prince. Qin Yu's forehead is covered with beads of sweat, but his eyes are glittering and his face is very red. Quickly get up, you two. After saying so, he even smiles at the 2 black-armored warriors. Then he jumps and rushes into Misty Villa. End of B1C2. The 2 black-armored warriors look at Qin Yu's back in puzzlement. Third Prince usually goes to the top of the mountain to look at the starry sky. Why did he come back so early this time? The black-armored warrior on the left asks doubtfully. The black-armored warrior on the right also shakes his head in puzzlement. Obviously he does not know the reason. Lian Yan is also Qin Yu's so-called Grandpa Lian. Lian Yan is an old member of the Qin clan. The current East vanquishing Prince Qin De was brought up by Lian Yan. Therefore, Lian Yan's words are very influential in the Qin clan. 2 years ago, Qin De asked Lian Yan to come to Misty Villa to take care of Qin Yu. Like a gust of wind, Qin Yu rushes directly to Lian Yan's room. Then he immediately raises his small fist and violently knocks on the door. Bang! 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 Grandpa Lian, quickly open the door. I'm Xiao Yu. I have something to tell you. Quickly open the door. Qin Yu shouts impatiently. After a while, the light in the room is turned on. Xiao Yu, Grandpa just fell asleep not long ago and was woken up by you. Along with an affectionate voice, the door is opened. A kind-looking old man in his 60s, wearing a coat, appears in front of Qin Yu. Ah, Xiao Yu, what's wrong? You're sweating profusely. Lian Yin looks at Qin Yu in astonishment. Qin Yu is about to say something, but the fierce running just now has made him gasp for breath. Seeing Qin Yu gasping for breath so quickly, Lian Yin hurriedly says, "Come, let's go inside first. Let's talk inside." After saying so, he leads Qin Yu into the room. The two of them sat down at the square table. "Take a rest. Don't worry. Wait until you've calmed down." Seeing that Qin Yu wanted to say something, Lian Yin hurriedly said. Qin Yu takes a deep breath, then stares at Lian Yin and says resolutely, "Grandpa Lian, I want to practice." Cultivate. Lian Yin is slightly startled, then asks with a smile, "Xiao Yu, why do you want to practice?" Qin Yu paused for a moment, then laughed. "It's nothing. I just saw that the uncles in the villa were all very powerful, so I wanted to practice martial arts." "Grandpa Lian, can I practice martial arts?" The desire for a father's love was buried in the deepest part of Qin Yu's heart. He only wanted to bury it in his heart, and then continue to work hard towards his goal. "Xiao Yu, do you know what martial arts are?" Lian Yin didn't answer but asked instead. Qin Yu shakes his head and says, "I only know that those who practice martial arts are very powerful. I don't know much about other things. It seems there's also internal energy and so on." Even though an 8-year-old child has read a lot of books, there are still many things he doesn't know. "Then I'll explain it to you in detail first," Lian Yin says with a smile. Qin Yu's eyes immediately brighten. He stares at Lian Yin and starts to listen attentively. Let's talk about experts first. Experts are divided into Houtian experts, Xiantian experts, and Shangxian experts who have surpassed Xiantian experts. Lian Yin says with a smile. Houtian experts are as numerous as carps in a river on the Qianlong continent. But Xiantian experts, perhaps there are only about 100 people in the whole Chu kingdom. 100 people? Qin Yu is shocked. Isn't there about 4 billion people in the Chu kingdom? How come there are so few Xiantian experts, only one in several tens of millions? Lian Yin says with a sigh. Houtian experts can become Houtian experts as long as they have a practice method. But it's very difficult to become a Xiantian expert. To become a Xiantian expert, there are 2 requirements. First, you have to reach the peak of the Houtian level. Second, you have to have some comprehension of the way of heaven. Qin Yu is immediately puzzled. The way of heaven, what's that? Lian Yin immediately bursts into laughter. The way of heaven, that's not a thing. It's a kind of conception that can only be comprehended by oneself, and is difficult to be taught orally. Some people have reached the peak of the Houtian level for several tens of years, but they can't comprehend it and break through the last step. They can't become a Xiantian expert for the rest of their lives. But once they become a Xiantian expert, they'll have a lifespan of about 500 years. 500 years? Qin Yu's little mouth is wide open. Seeing Qin Yu's cute expression, Lian Yin laughs. It's very difficult to become a Xiantian expert. But once you become a Xiantian expert, naturally you'll have a lot of benefits. 500 years is just a lifespan. The nature of a Xiantian expert, Xiantian Jinqi, is also different from that of a Houtian expert. They're on 2 completely different levels. Ah, Grandpa Lian, aren't there Shangxian above Xiantian experts? How formidable are they? Qin Yu's eyes brighten. If even Xiantian experts are so formidable, then how formidable would Shangxian be? Shangxian, how can it be so easy to become one? Lian Yin says with a sigh. Shangxian, even emperors have to salute them when they see them and call them Shangxian. It's very respectful. These emperors are afraid that Shangxian will kill them. Shangxian can ride a flying sword and soar through the 9th heaven. They simply can't be regarded as mortals. Soar through the 9th heaven. A picture naturally appears in Qin Yu's mind. Riding a flying sword and soaring through the 9th heaven. That kind of carefree and unrestrained feeling makes little Qin Yu very fascinated. Qin Yu unconsciously wants to become a Shangxian. There are nearly 100 Xiantian experts in the whole Chu kingdom. But It's hard to see even one Shangxian in the whole Chu kingdom in 100 years. And now there are only 3 Shangxian in the whole Chu kingdom. Among the 3 Shangxian, 2 of them became Shangxian more than 300 years ago. In the last 300 years, only your Uncle Feng has become a Shangxian. Uncle Feng. Qin Yu recalls his own Uncle Feng. That Uncle Feng, who is dressed in white and often sits on a white crane, is unexpectedly a Shangxian? Lian Yin continues. But if you want to become a Shangxian, the best way is to go to the overseas immortal islands and become an apprentice. But who knows about the overseas immortal islands except for the Shangxian of each country? Can ordinary people meet a Shangxian? Are they qualified to ask a Shangxian about the route to the overseas immortal islands? Even if they know, the overseas immortal islands are really too far away from the Qianlong continent. Every year there are over 10,000 people from the Qianlong continent who go to the overseas immortal islands to become an apprentice. But there are dangers lurking in the ocean. Only 1 out of 1,000 can reach the overseas immortal islands alive. Lian Yin sighs emotionally. Qin Yu's eyes brighten at once. Grandpa Lian, there are 10 Shangxian going to the overseas immortal islands each year. Then why are there so few Shangxian on the Qianlong continent? According to Qin Yu's understanding, if there are 10 Shangxian in a year, doesn't that mean there are a lot of Shangxian on the Qianlong continent? But there are very few Shangxian on the Qianlong continent. Over the last several hundred to several thousand years, there are less than 10. Can you become a Shangxian after going to the overseas immortal islands? Lian Yin shakes his head and says, Shangxian is so extraordinary. How can it be possible for everybody to practice successfully? I'll tell you the way to practice. Only 1 out of 1,000 people has the qualifications to practice Shangxian. Doesn't that mean only 10 of those who go to the overseas immortal islands each year can reach it alive, and only 1 out of every 100 years can become a Shangxian? Qin Yu immediately feels how difficult it is to become a Shangxian. Lian Yin suddenly stands up and looks out of the window. Shangxian? What a dazzling name. Countless experts on the whole continent are crazy about it. Countless experts want to become Shangxian. Once the flying sword is sent out, it can kill people from 1,000 li away. What kind of magical power is this? There is a hint of longing in Lian Yan's eyes. He then sighs emotionally. Even your father always wants to get a Shangxian to help him. If he can get a Shangxian to help him, he might be able to achieve his goal. Qin Yu's heart suddenly trembles. Father's goal. At the same time, a warm current flows through Qin Yu's whole body. Qin Yu's whole body is immediately filled with energy. If I practice Shangxian, perhaps father will be very happy. At that time, I'll also be able to help him. Thinking that if he becomes a Shangxian, he will be able to help his father, and also get his father's praise and attention. Qin Yu's lonely heart, which longs for his father's love, warms up. For father's sake, I must become a Shangxian. Qin Yu bites his lips. His eyes flash with determination. Chapter 4. It is already late at night. Outside the room, the cold wind is whistling. In the room, Qin Yu is so excited that his whole body is boiling hot. Grandpa Lian, tell me how to practice. I want to practice. I'll definitely become a Shangxian. Even if I can't become a Shangxian, I'll become a Xiantian expert. Qin Yu's eyes radiate an extremely resolute light. In his mind, Qin Yu has already started to picture the future. He can even imagine his father's praising gaze. What he needs is nothing else but his father's love, his father's praise, his father's smile, and even his father's criticism or punishment will all make Qin Yu feel the existence of his father's love in his heart. What he needs is nothing more than his father's love. Now, he has found a way to regain his father's love. That was to cultivate diligently and become a valiant martial artist like his big brother Qin Feng. A valiant martial artist, and even an exalted immortal that surpassed mortals. Qin Yu looks at Lian Yin expectantly. Xiao Yu. Lian Yin feels helpless in his heart, but he has no choice but to tell him the truth. If you want to become a Xiantian expert, you must practice internal energy and break through from the Houtian stage to the Xiantian stage. But your Dantian can't store internal energy. How can you practice internal energy? And how can you become a Xiantian expert? My Dantian does have a problem. But Uncle Wang and the others once said that there are frighteningly many internal energy techniques in the world. Maybe there's one that I can practice. Even if I can't practice internal energy, there's still external energy. I can still become a Xiantian expert. Qinyu says hurriedly. He absolutely can't tolerate himself not becoming an expert. Because in the pure heart of an 8-year-old child, this is the only way to regain his father's love. External energy? External energy is just using various methods to train the body, making the body stronger and faster. It's nothing more than a small path. Since ancient times, no matter how strong the body of a person who was born with extraordinary strength is, no one has ever reached the Xiantian stage by relying on external energy. It's simply impossible to become a Xiantian expert by practicing external energy. Lian Yin doesn't want Qinyu to waste his time and says directly, "Not even one. Is there no hope at all?" Qinyu is startled. His face immediately turns pale. With his last hope gone, Qinyu felt a chill in his heart. Looking at the deathly pale Qinyu, Lian Yin feels a burst of heartache. He's still a child. Lian Yin says at once, "Xiao Yu, in fact external techniques are also very formidable. Firstly, external techniques strengthen the muscles and can last for a long time. It would not be used up as quickly as his inner force." And, in order to comfort Qinyu, Lian Yin kept thinking about the benefits of external training. Hearing what Lian Yin said, Qinyu's eyes lit up again. Also, although external martial arts are difficult to train, the body is still the foundation of a person. In the fierce tiger army, there is a big man who is born with great strength. He can lift a stone block weighing 800 pounds with one hand, just by relying on external strength. 800 caddies? One hand. The hope in Qinyu's heart is rekindled. He can imagine that with such great strength, chopping people with a big axe would be as simple as cutting wheat. Yes, 800 pounds. He can lift a stone block weighing 800 pounds with one hand. His weapon is a one-legged bronze statue. On the battlefield, even early-stage Xiantian experts are not as brave as him. With a wave of that one-legged bronze statue, a large number of enemies will fall to the ground. Lian Yin keeps talking about the benefits of external martial arts. Finally, Lian Yin concludes, although no one can become a Xiantian expert by practicing external martial arts to the peak of the Hotian level, when the body reaches its limit, its power will be very terrifying. It won't be weaker than an early-stage Xiantian expert. Seeing that Qinyu's complexion has improved, Lian Yin secretly lets out a sigh of relief. He has watched Qinyu grow up, so he knows Qinyu's temperament. Can an external martial arts practitioner reach the peak of the Hotian level compete with an early-stage Xiantian expert? Qinyu asks again. Lian Yin nods repeatedly. At this time, how can he dare to deny it? Perhaps if he shakes his head, Qinyu will feel even sadder. Grandpa Lian, you said that no one has ever practiced external martial arts to the Xiantian level before? Qinyu asks. Lian Yin nods nervously. However, Qinyu becomes excited. He waves his fist and says, "Good, no one has ever reached the Xiantian level before. Then I must." Lian Yin is immediately stunned. Just because no one has done it in the past doesn't mean it's impossible. I believe in myself. Qinyu's eyes radiate a scorching light. Lian Yin gives a forced smile. External martial arts? Practicing external martial arts is countless times more painful than practicing internal martial arts. External martial arts is to train the body. If one wants to reach the peak of the body, he has to use all kinds of training methods to make his body undergo countless transformations. That kind of pain is not something that ordinary people can bear. How can Lian Yin bear to see Qinyu suffer that kind of pain? Xiao Yu, practicing external martial arts is very painful. It's even more painful than being whipped 100 times a day. You're also the son of East Vanquishing Prince. Someone will protect you, so you don't have to suffer so much. Lian Yin persuades him. He really can't bear to see such a young child suffer. Qinyu slowly shakes his head. No. He says one word, but it leaves no room for discussion. Lian Yin feels helpless in his heart. Why are all the people of the Qin clan like this? No matter what they look like on the outside, their most fundamental nature is extremely firm. Every one of them has set a goal and will never look back. His father was like this and now he's also like this. Qin Yu suddenly smiles. He knows that his Grandpa Lian cares about him. Grandpa Lian, don't worry. Maybe there are some internal martial arts techniques that I can practice. You should find some more internal martial arts techniques for me to try. If I really can't practice internal martial arts, it won't be too late for me to practice external martial arts. Qin Yu goes to Lian Yan's side and holds his shoulder saying, Grandpa Lian, don't worry. In the villa, there are the best doctors, various kinds of experts and even magical hot springs. What are you worried about? Lian Yan strokes Qin Yu's head. There is a faint kind smile on his face. Of course he knows that Qin Yu doesn't want him to worry. All right, Xiao Yu. Go back to sleep. Leave this matter to me. Lian Yan says. Qin Yu suddenly raises his head and says, Grandpa Lian, also, help me find some external martial arts experts. It should be better to have someone to give them guidance. Don't worry. Grandpa knows. Lian Yan says smilingly. Qin Yu immediately smiles. With a ba sound, he kisses Lian Yan's face intimately. Then he jumps and runs towards the door shouting, Grandpa Lian, go to sleep. I'm going back to sleep too. As soon as he finishes speaking, he has already left the room. Lian Yan immediately takes out a writing brush and paper and starts to write a letter. Yen City. In the prince's mansion, Qinda's study. Qinda is standing in the study, looking out of the window. It is already dawn. The scholar Su Yuan, who is dressed in black, comes in. He is holding a letter in his hand. He walks to Qinda's side and says with a smile, Your Highness, this is a letter from Uncle Lian. It's about this child Xiao Yu. Take a look. Qinda takes the letter and keeps reading its contents. His eyes radiate a complicated light. He unexpectedly doesn't put the letter down for a long time. Your Highness, Su Yuan shouts quietly. Qinda wakes up at once. A stream of flame emerges from his hand and unexpectedly burns the letter directly into ashes. Then he says calmly with a grim expression, Su Yuan, take a copy of all the secret internal and external martial arts manuals in the mansion and send them to Misty Villa. Su Yuan is shocked. He knows that Qin Yu is unable to practice internal martial arts. He also knows how precious these secret internal martial arts manuals are, even compared with the secret internal martial arts manuals in the Chu Royal Palace. East Vanquishing Prince's secret internal martial arts manuals are much more precious. Isn't it a waste to give so many secret internal martial arts manuals to Qin Yu, who is unable to practice internal martial arts? Your Highness, all of them? Including the ancestral dragon arts? Xiao Yu is unable to practice internal martial arts. Su Yuan asks again, Didn't you hear what I said just now? Qinda says coldly. Su Yuan nods and says no more. He can see that Qinda has something on his mind, and can also guess what Qinda is feeling at the moment. Also, Qinda slightly exhales. Doesn't you want external martial arts experts? Take the 3 external martial arts experts in the Fierce Tiger Corps, and find external martial arts experts in the 3 eastern region counties with him. Yes, Su Yuan says in response. Qinda pauses for a while then suddenly says, Su Yuan, send an order to the Boundless Wilderness. Tell General Zhao Yunqing to go to the Misty Villa as well. If Yu chooses him to be his teacher, he can stay at the Misty Villa for a year. General Zhao Yunqing? Su Yuan is shocked. Qinda nods and is about to walk out of the study when Su Yuan suddenly says, Your Highness, when you return to Yin capital this time, won't you go to Misty Villa to see Xiao Yu? The last time you saw Xiao Yu was more than a year ago. Shouldn't we squeeze out a day to go there? Qinda pauses and says calmly, No need. Then he goes straight out of the study. Looking at Qinda's back, Su Yuan shakes his head and says with a sigh, Could it be that everyone in the Qin clan is like this? Each and every one of them is so stubborn. For the sake of the oath they made at that time, they don't even care about their relationship as father and son? Su Yuan sighs and also goes out of the study, leaving only the burnt ashes of the letter on the floor. Chapter 5. The sky is clear and the air is clear. At the hot spring in the west garden of Misty Villa. Ah, it's really comfortable. Chinyu is lying in the hot spring wearing only a pair of underpants. Whether it is winter or summer, one doesn't need to worry about the temperature in the hot spring. Misty Villa's hot spring is different from other hot springs, in that it has miraculous effects. According to the research of some medical experts, there are quite a few substances in this hot spring that are beneficial to the body. Xiaohei, come down. Chinyu suddenly reaches out his hand and grabs Xiaohei, pulling it into the hot spring. Immediately, Xiaohei flaps its wings hurriedly. Unfortunately, by the time it escapes, its feathers are already wet, and it has really become a drowned rat. With water dripping from its body, Xiaohei looks at Chinyu with hidden bitterness, as if blaming its little master for playing tricks on it. Seeing Xiaohei's appearance, Chinyu immediately raises his head and bursts into laughter. Haha, Xiaohei, you're really cute. Come, soak in the hot spring with me. It's very comfortable. In the future, you're going to be an eagle that can soar to the ninth heaven. You can fly, but you also need to be able to go into the water. Otherwise, you'll be too useless. Chinyu is making fun of Xiaohei. However, Xiaohei flaps its wings to fan off the water droplets on its body. It even stares at Chinyu, seemingly very discontented. Xiaoyu. Lian walks towards Chinyu from the corridor of the west garden smilingly. He bypasses the rockery and appears in front of Chinyu. Chinyu turns his head around and smiles brilliantly at once. Grandpa Lian. I want to tell you a piece of good news. Lian says mysteriously. Chinyu is pleasantly surprised in his heart at once. Good news? Could it be father has come? Although he thinks so, Chinyu doesn't say it out loud. He looks at Lian with longing. Lian says with a smile. The secret books you wanted have already arrived. Chinyu is slightly disappointed in his heart, but when he recovers from his disappointment, he suddenly jumps out of the hot spring and puts on his clothes in a couple of movements. His eyes are filled with excitement. Grandpa Lian, quickly take me there. Where's the secret book? No one could help him. He could only work hard himself. Come with me. Lian smilingly leads the way in the front. Chinyu excitedly follows behind Lian, but he has made up his mind. In the past, Chinyu lived a muddle-headed life. When he had nothing to do, he would read books in his study, watch the starry sky late at night, soak in the hot spring, and play with Xiaohei. However, at this moment, Chinyu had a goal in his heart. His whole body was filled with enthusiasm. Even his temperament had changed. Misty Villa. In the underground secret room of the North Courtyard. There are several 10 secret rooms in the underground secret room group. Lian leads Chinyu into one of the secret rooms. In this secret room, there is only a bed, a long table, a chair and other daily necessities. It looks very simple and simple. At the moment on the long table, there is a delicate black box. Xiaoyu, those secret manuals are in this box. Lian says while pointing at the black box. As soon as Chinyu hears this, his eyes brighten. He rushes forward, wanting to open the black box. This action, however, gives Lian a fright. Xiaoyu, don't open it. Lian's right hand suddenly flashes like a phantom. He unexpectedly grabs Chinyu and lifts him up. He then puts him behind his back and says very solemnly, Xiaoyu, this box isn't an ordinary box. You can't open it like this. Chinyu looks at Lian doubtfully. Xiaoyu, you're too young. You still don't know how precious these secret manuals are. Lian shakes his head and says smilingly, You should know that these secret manuals are even more precious than the secret collections in the Chu Royal Palace. Therefore, the structure of this box is also very peculiar. If you forcibly open it or randomly open it, the secret manuals inside will be destroyed. After saying so, Lian's hand moves like a phantom. In an instant, he continuously points at the box 12 times, each time at a different position. With a bang, a keyhole unexpectedly appears on the box. Chinyu opens his eyes wide. He remembers clearly that just now the box didn't have a keyhole. He thought that this box was the same as its surface, just an ordinary box with a closed lid. He didn't expect that its structure would be so peculiar. Even if someone took it away, they wouldn't be able to find the keyhole. Moreover, there's no key. While saying so, Lian Yin takes out a golden key and puts it into the keyhole. With a click, the box opens automatically. Qin Yu immediately cranes his head to take a look. At a glance, the black box was filled with extremely thin books. Each book only had about a dozen pages. The smallest book only had a few pages, and the thickest one only had about 20 pages. However, the entire box was filled to the brim with such thin books. The secret internal techniques inside are all top-notch. There are 68 secret manuals and 28 kinds of external techniques. Xiaoyu, in the future, if you want to read these secret manuals, you must come to the secret room. You mustn't take them out. Do you understand? Lian Yin says to Qin Yu with a solemn expression. Qin Yu nods his head affirmatively. All right, you were able to read before you were 6 years old. In the past 2 years, you've also read a lot of books. You should be able to understand these secret manuals by yourself. Take your time to read them. Grandpa is leaving first. Lian Yin says smilingly, then leaves the secret room. After Lian Yin leaves that very night, Qin Yu alone takes the secret manuals one by one and puts them all on the table. There are 96 secret manuals in total, filling the long table. Looking at the secret manuals in front of him, Qin Yu's eyes radiate an unprecedented brilliance. Ode to the Yellow Crane, 100 Sentences, Song of the Golden Cauldron, Song of the Gold Cauldron, Song of Gold Mining, Note of Water Element. Each of these secret manuals of internal techniques is a manual that can make fighters go crazy. The Qin clan has a long history. Even if all the secret manuals of the 3 big dynasties are taken out, they still cannot compare with the Qin clans. Many of these secret manuals of the Qin clan have been lost for several hundred years. Ancestral Dragon Arts. It seems that when I was little, Father let me read it. Qin Yu looks at the last and thinnest secret manual. It is also made of the most precious materials. Ancestral Dragon Arts is written on golden paper. Even the 3 big characters Ancestral Dragon Arts give people a kind of oppressive feeling. After reading the 68 top-notch internal techniques, Qin Yu looks at the 28 kinds of external techniques. Iron Sand Palm, Vigorous Diamond Palm, Dragon Claw Hand, Iron Cloth, Diamond Cover, 13 Great Guardians Cross-Training, Overlord's Divine Fist. The 28 kinds of external techniques are placed in front of Qin Yu one by one. At first, Qin Yu randomly picks up a manual and starts to read it slowly. In the secret room, Qin Yu starts to read the various kinds of precious secret manuals of practice that have been collected by the Qin clan through who knows how many generations. Chapter 6. In the secret room, Qin Yu schemes through the book's 10 lines at a glance. In just 2 hours, Qin Yu has browsed through all 28 external secret books. Grandpa Yin is right. Practicing external techniques seems to be really hard. Qin Yu's small face frowns. After reading 28 secret books, Qin Yu has gained a certain understanding of external practice. External practice is to use various methods to make the body stronger. It is a form of unceasing training to surpass one's fatigue limit and surpass one's limits unceasingly. Internal practice was just absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. There was no pain during practice. On the contrary, after practice, one would feel refreshed. External practice, on the other hand, was to explore the limits of the body and let the body experience the greatest degree of training. It was extremely painful and difficult. These were 2 completely opposite methods of practice. External practice was hard and tiring. Moreover, it was impossible to become a Xiantian master. Generally, only the poor without any background would choose to practice external practice. The real children of aristocratic families usually practiced internal practice. But what about Qin Yu? There were 68 top-notch inner force cultivation methods, and every one of them was extremely impressive. But could he practice them? Let's take a look at the internal technique first. Even though my Dantian is rather peculiar, maybe there's some internal technique that I can practice. Qin Yu opens the secret book with a bit of hope. As soon as he reads it, he is stupefied. Shinting Point, Baihui Point, Fengqi Point, Qimen Point, Sanjiao Han Xiaoyang Meridian, Han Tying Han Xiaoyang Meridian, Kidney Foot Xiaoyang Meridian, This? Qin Yu was dumbfounded. He had read a lot of books and heard these words. But the point was, he knew about the Fengqi point, but he didn't know where it was located in the human body. Although there were pictures in the books, they were only rough pictures. There were only a few lines. This internal practice could not be practiced carelessly. If the qi entered the wrong path, it would be fatal. It seems that I have to go to the study to carefully study the books about meridians. At least I have to understand the meridians and acupoints. Qin Yu's face was full of helplessness. Then he put away the books and left the secret room. 6 days later, Qin Yu entered the secret room again. Hehe. I'm very confident this time. I'll test the 68 books one by one, and see which one I can cultivate. Qin Yu's face was full of excitement. After all, Qin Yu was only an 8-year-old child, and he often dreamed of becoming an expert. During the 6 days of studying the meridians and acupoints, in order to completely understand them, Qin Yu even asked the servants of Misty Villa to make a wooden dummy. He also asked a medical expert, Mr. Wang Xian, who was specially assigned to Misty Villa, to clearly mark the meridians and acupoints. Combining the books, the wooden figurines, and frequently asking old Mr. Wang Xian, Qin Yu was finally prepared to start cultivating his inner strength with full confidence. Which book should I cultivate first? Let's go with this, the commentary on the Water Classic. Qin Yu muttered to himself, as he casually chose a secret book. This commentary on the water scripture was very famous several hundred years ago, but now not many people knew of this top-level cultivation method. Qin Yu followed the cultivation method, and sat down cross-legged, beginning to cultivate. The first step of cultivating inner strength was to have a sense of qi, to be able to feel the extremely small amount of heaven and earth spirit qi that one absorbed. In reality, people who lived in the world had always unconsciously absorbed heaven and earth spirit qi, but because the amount was too small, it was simply impossible to feel. Cultivation was to consciously absorb as much as possible. 2 hours later, Qin Yu's heart was in a mess, and he couldn't hold on any longer. Sense of qi, sense of qi. Grandpa Lien said that those with good talent would have a sense of qi as soon as they started cultivating. I've already cultivated for 2 hours. How come I don't have any sense of qi? Qin Yu's face was full of helplessness. After sitting cross-legged for so long, his legs were numb. After getting up and moving for a while, Qin Yu once again sat down to cultivate the commentary on the water scripture. 2 days later, after Qin Yu ate breakfast, he continued to cultivate. Qin Yu was very stubborn. He had been cultivating the first chapter of the commentary on the water scripture. In reality, it was just to feel the sense of qi, and there was no difference which inner strength secret book he used. Stubborn. Qin Yu once again sat down cross-legged. In his mind, he began to imagine the flow of qi in his meridians. After that, Qin Yu didn't think about anything else. His mind was empty, and he continued like this. Suddenly, Qin Yu felt an extremely weak flow of qi in his body. After persisting for 2 days, he finally succeeded. In an instant, Qin Yu's heart was filled with excitement. Immediately, the state of calmness in his heart and emptiness in his mind disappeared. At the same time, Qin Yu also couldn't feel the flow of qi. Calm, Qin Yu said to himself. Then, he once again entered the state described in the commentary on the water scripture. After a while, Qin Yu indeed once again felt a weak flow of qi in his body. Immediately, Qin Yu followed the method of the commentary on the water scripture, and began to let the qi circulate in his meridians for a small cycle. As it circulated, Qin Yu could more clearly feel the flow of qi. After a small cycle, Qin Yu wanted to control the flow of qi into his dantian. According to the secret book, when the qi entered the dantian, it would quietly accumulate in the dantian. But, what's going on? My dantian really can't store qi? Qin Yu was dumbfounded. He discovered that the qi that had gone through a small cycle in his dantian had actually dispersed and returned to its natural state. His dantian was still empty. It seems that Uncle Feng was right. My dantian is different from the others. It is impossible to store qi. When cultivating inner strength, qi is stored in the dantian. If my dantian can't store qi, then what's the point of cultivating? Qin Yu finally understood. Although there were countless ways to cultivate inner strength in the world, each one was different. But there was one thing that was the same. The qi absorbed during cultivation was stored in the qi acupoint, which was the dantian. If even the dantian can't store qi, then what's the point of cultivating? Suddenly, Qin Yu casually found the golden ancestral dragon tactics. Among all the inner strength books, the only book written on golden paper was very conspicuous. Qin Yu reached out and took the ancestral dragon tactics. The ancestral dragon tactics was very thin, only 3 pages. But the words on the golden paper were very small, and the 3 golden pages contained a lot of content. Qin Yu tried to cultivate according to the ancestral dragon tactics. After a moment, Qin Yu felt a flow of qi in his body. This ancestral dragon tactics was really powerful. It absorbed more qi of heaven and earth than before, and the circulation speed was very fast. When Qin Yu was about to store qi in his dantian, the same thing happened. The dantian was like a funnel. It would leak out as much inner qi as it had, and there was no way to store it. Qin Yu smiled bitterly and helplessly. Then he laughed. Sigh, looks like I can't be lazy anymore. I didn't want to suffer, and wanted to find a way to cultivate inner strength. This dantian is like a funnel. It disperses as much inner strength as it has. How can I cultivate inner strength? But Qin Yu didn't seem to care at all. In fact, Qin Yu had already prepared himself for failure. After all, the person who said that he couldn't cultivate inner strength was Fenjiuzi, one of the 3 Shangxian of the Chu kingdom. Such a person's assertion was very unlikely to be wrong. External strength. Well, from today on, I'll cultivate external strength with all my strength. Qin Yu's eyes glittered. Looking at the 28 books of external strength, Qin Yu laughed. In the past, no one on the Qianlong continent has ever reached the Xiantian realm. Let me be the first person to reach the Xiantian realm with external strength. After all, Qin Yu was only an 8-year-old child. He still had the temperament of a child. Reaching the Xiantian realm by relying on external strength was indeed unprecedented. But how powerful was a Xiantian external strength expert? This was a mystery. 2 days later, in the morning, in Qin Yu's study, Qin Yu was holding a book and reading it quietly. There were 2 huge bookshelves beside Qin Yu. At first glance, there were at least 1,000 books of all kinds on them. Xiao He was also wandering around in the study, not bothering its little master. Third Prince, 8 external experts have come. The one leading them is the deputy manager of the prince's mansion. He said they were sent to pick an external strength teacher for Third Prince. A servant went to the door of the study and said respectfully. Qin Yu's eyes brightened at once. He put down the book in his hand at once. His heart was filled with excitement. At that time he had told Lian Yan about this, and Lian Yan had also sent a message to inform the people in the prince's mansion. East vanquishing Prince Qinda knew about this, so he specially arranged several great experts in the military camp, and several great external experts from the 3 eastern region counties to come together. After waiting for 2 days they finally came. Kong'an quickly lead the way. Qin Yu excitedly ordered the servant at once. Yes, Kong'an respectfully led the way at once. Qin Yu went out of the study and walked towards the west court. Chapter 7. There is a training ground not far from the hot spring in the West Garden. At the moment, quite a few people have gathered here. Uncle Lian, this time the 8 great external experts are all first class. There are 4 from the army, and the other 4 are also very formidable external experts from the 3 eastern region counties. Look, that silver-haired old man is the Eagle Claw King An. Deputy Manager Li, who is leading the team, says to Lian Yan in a somewhat ingratiating manner. Lian Yan nods his head carelessly and casts a glance at the 8 great external experts. His eyes do not linger on the so-called Eagle Claw King and the others for even a second. When practicing external techniques, whether it is the fingers, the claws, or the legs, the parts of the body that are trained are different from those of ordinary people. For example, people who practice claw techniques have thicker fingers and more calluses. Therefore, Uncle Lian looks down on these people in the slightest. Oh, Uncle Lian's eyes suddenly brighten. He stares at the last of the 8 people, a black-clad cold-looking man. This man is not very strong. His muscles are not as developed as the others, and there are no calluses on his hands. He simply does not look like an external expert. However, Uncle Lian's eyes linger on this black-clad man for no less than 3 seconds. The black-clad cold-looking man suddenly raises his head and meets Uncle Lian's eyes. The man's eyes suddenly erupt like a flash of lightning. Zhao Yunqing. So it's General Zhao. His Highness was actually willing to invite General Zhao. If Xiao Yu can become your disciple, it won't be difficult for him to become an expert in the future. Uncle Lian says with a smile. Uncle Lian also knows Zhao Yunqing very well. Zhao Yunqing's face is still cold. His Highness said that Third Prince can choose whoever he wants to be his master. It's all up to His Highness's taste. Senior Lian, you'd better not secretly remind His Highness. Otherwise, even if he chooses Yunqing, Yunqing won't accept him as his disciple. Of course I know that. Everything depends on Xiao Yu's own choice. Lian Yin says smilingly with a nod. The 8 great external experts this time are all extremely formidable. Being able to practice external techniques to the level of these 8 people, they can be regarded as external grandmasters. No matter which one Qin Yu chooses, it will be a good choice. However, Lian Yin is secretly expecting that Qin Yu will choose Zhao Yunqing, because he knows how formidable Zhao Yunqing is. A moment later, the sound of footsteps was heard from outside. Qin Yu rushed in with a trace of excitement on his face. Qin Yu's eyes lit up as soon as he saw the 8 experts in front of him. Xiao Yu, you can choose one of these 8 external experts to be your master, says Lian Yin smilingly. Qin Yu carefully looked at them one by one. Among the 8 experts, the most conspicuous one should be the bear-like big man. His huge arms were thicker than Qin Yu's waist. Qin Yu didn't doubt the power of his fist. Instantly, Qin Yu became even more excited. Choose one. Can't I choose all 8? Qin Yu looks at Lian Yin and asks doubtfully with a frown. Lian Yin is stunned for a while. The 8 experts are all stupefied. Even the grave and stern Zhao Yunqing raises his eyebrows. A faint smile uncontrollably appears on the corners of his mouth. Cough. Lian Yin coughs, then says to Qin Yu earnestly, Xiao Yu, practicing martial arts isn't like studying. You can hire several teachers for studying, but you can't practice martial arts. For example, if you practice several kinds of internal techniques at the same time, you'll suffer from Qigong deviation. But I'm practicing external techniques. Qin Yu asks in reply. External techniques are even worse. External techniques exercise the body, making it break through the limits unceasingly. Every external expert has his own set of methods, which have been practiced by countless people. They can guarantee that your body won't break down because of this. But, if you learn from several teachers at the same time, those methods will be mixed together, then. Lian Yin shakes his head and sighs. His meaning is obviously very clear. And besides this reason, there's another even more important one. Among the 8 of us, I don't think any of us will be willing to share a disciple with others. A robust bald man says with a smile. The others all nod with a smile. These 8 people are all grandmaster-level external experts. Each of them is very proud and aloof. How can they be willing to share a disciple with others? But after hearing what Qin Yu said, they don't care. After all, he's only an 8-year-old kid. I understand. Qin Yu nods his head. Suddenly, a hint of craftiness flashes through Qin Yu's eyes. Lian Yan's heart immediately jumps. He knows that even though Qin Yu is kind-hearted, he also likes to play pranks. The guards and servants of Misty Villa have suffered from his pranks a lot. 8 uncles. I heard from Grandpa Lian that you're external experts and want me to choose you as my teachers. But shouldn't you also perform a little so that I can choose? Qin Yu blinks his big eyes and looks at the 8 external experts. Isn't that right? If they don't perform, how can they choose? Haha, that's reasonable. I'll perform a little bit first. What should I perform? I, Man Dong, have a lot of unique skills. The biggest man among the 8 people, who is as robust as a bear, comes forward. In his hand is a one-legged bronze statue. Man Dong thinks for a while then laughs. Alright, I'll perform my strength. Mandong puts the one-legged bronze statue on the ground. At first glance, he takes a fancy to the huge bluestone used as a decoration in the West Garden. That bluestone is nearly half a person's height, and seems to weigh at least 1,000 jin. Mandong walks over and grabs both sides of it with both hands. Humph. Mandong coldly humphed. Qingyu was actually able to see a visible aura coming out from Mandong's nose. The muscles on Mandong's arms bulged. They were like earthworms intertwining with one another. The lines of his muscles were like stone sculptures. The divine power contained within them was frightening. Up. Mandong shouts loudly. That huge bluestone is unexpectedly thrown up by his hands and flies up. Qingyu is stunned. Just lifting a 1,000 jin boulder is frighteningly difficult. This Mandong actually threw this boulder up. The strength of his hands is definitely more than 1,000 jin. That boulder flies up 1 or 2 meters, and then falls down heavily. Mandong stabilizes his horse stance, stretches out his hands, and holds the bluestone with both hands. When this bluestone falls down, the strength of Mandong's hands exceeds its own weight. But Mandong still firmly holds it up. It is obvious how strong his strength is. Amazing. Qingyu opens his eyes wide. Mandong chuckles and says carelessly, I, Mandong, have the strength of 800 jin with one hand. With both hands added together, more than 1,000 jin is just a piece of cake. Mandong is born with divine strength. He is one of the 3 external experts of the fierce tiger army. His nickname is Barbarian Bear. Amazing, amazing, who else? Qingyu is excited at this moment. Seeing such a performance, how can he not be excited? Thinking that he will have such strength in the future, he is even more excited. But Qingyu does not know that Mandong is born with divine strength. If Qingyu wants to train to that level, it will be very difficult. A lean man with a hooked nose comes out and says, I practice the iron palm. Qingyu looks at the man's palm. It is indeed different from an ordinary person's palm. It is much coarser and even has a cyan color. That hooked-nosed man directly walks to the side of the bluestone and suddenly slaps it with his palm. The bluestone suddenly shook, and then it actually shattered into dozens of large pieces. The power of such a palm strike was simply terrifying. Qinyu's small mouth is wide open. He is shocked to see that cold hooked-nosed man. If such palm strength hits a human body, who can withstand it? Chapter 8. But Qingyu doesn't know. The 8 people who have come this time have all reached the Grandmaster level of their respective schools of external martial arts. Each of them is extremely powerful and can defeat an ordinary peak Hotian expert. Perhaps only a Xiantian expert can suppress them. Having reached such a level in external martial arts, their hands and feet are already as hard as steel, even sharper than weapons. It is very normal for them to smash bluestones. However, to reach such a level in external martial arts, it requires not only hard work, but also talent. After all, there are more than 1 billion people in the 3 eastern region counties, but only a few dozen people can reach such a level in external martial arts. Qingyu opens his eyes wide and watches carefully. One by one, external martial arts experts come forward to perform their unique skills. Bang! The silver-haired old man grabs a piece of bluestone the size of a brick with one hand. His 5 fingers exert force, and the bluestone is immediately crushed into powder. Then the silver-haired old man coldly and arrogantly walks back to his position and says indifferently, Eagle Claw skill. This is the performance of the 6th external martial arts expert. A bald, strong man comes forward. His naked upper body seems to have traces of golden light. Iron leg skill. The bald man says with a faint smile. Then he casually swings his leg. Whoosh! The air is instantly torn apart, producing a rapid, ear-piercing whistling sound. A visible stream of air rushes out in a straight line and hits a piece of bluestone. The piece of bluestone is immediately sent rolling far away. Relying only on the stream of air generated by the terrifying speed of the leg, he can send a piece of bluestone rolling far away. What would be the result if that leg were to hit a person's body? Awesome! Qingyu secretly sighs. Then he looks at the last external martial arts expert the grave and stern man in black. From the beginning to the end, this grave and stern man in black has been indifferently watching the performances of the other external martial arts experts. His eyes have been very calm. Why don't you perform? Qin Yu can't help asking curiously after waiting for a while, and seeing that the grave and stern man has not made a move. Zhao Yunqing shakes his head and says indifferently, "My claw skill is not as good as the Eagle Claw King's. My strength is not as good as Man Dong's. And my leg skill is not as good as this brother's. So why should I make a fool of myself?" Qin Yu is dumbfounded. Then you should have some kind of ultimate move, right? Qin Yu carefully looked at the black-clothed man in front of him. He wanted to judge his ultimate move from his body, but Qin Yu failed. He simply couldn't find anything special about this black-clothed man. Ultimate move? Zhao Yunqing gives a smile. He then restrains himself and looks at Qin Yu. A hint of coldness flashes through his eyes. He says coldly, "I'll only use my special skill when I'm killing people. But, even if I become your master, I won't teach you the special skill to kill people." However, Qin Yu was not intimidated by Zhao Yunqing's imposing manner. Instead, he asked doubtfully, "You won't teach me your ultimate move, then what will you teach me?" "To train my body," Zhao Yunqing said calmly. Qin Yu suddenly started laughing. "Good, I'll choose you." Zhao Yunqing's always cold face now shows a trace of astonishment. Even the other 7 external experts all looked at Qin Yu in astonishment. They couldn't understand why Qin Yu didn't choose them, but instead chose someone who only taught training his body. Okay, the third prince has already chosen. From today onwards, Zhao Yunqing will be the third prince's teacher. Vice Manager Li immediately announced in a loud voice. The other 7 external experts all walked towards Qin Yu in astonishment. Man Dong's coarse voice sounded, "Third prince, why didn't you choose me? I can definitely teach you. Your strength is as great as an ox. With a big axe you can chop off a piece." Looking at the 7 curious external experts in front of him, Qin Yu's face showed a sly smile. "Haha, that's a secret." At this moment, Zhao Yunqing also walked over. Looking at Qin Yu, there was a faint smile on his face. He also asked, "I'm also very curious. Why did you choose me to be your teacher? Third prince, can you tell me the reason?" Qin Yu slightly raised his head and said complacently, "Idiots, do I even need to say it? You're really a bunch of idiots." After saying so, he turned around to leave. Lian Yan also walked over to Qin Yu's side and asked, "Xiao Yu, why did you choose this Zhao Yunqing?" Qin Yu immediately whispered mysteriously to Lian Yan, "Grandpa Lian, do I need to say it? Just look at their expressions and you'll know." Among the 8 of them, that Zhao Yunqing was standing at the very back. Nobody dared to approach him. Also, that Zhao Yunqing didn't seem to care about the others' performance. Isn't that enough to judge? Also, Grandpa Lian, look at that Zhao Yunqing's eyes. They're different from the others. Haha. After saying so, Qin Yu walked out of the West Court. The 8 external experts all had amazement in their eyes. They were all experts, so their hearing was also much more sensitive. They all heard what Qin Yu said. Third prince's mind is really meticulous. Maybe you can really get a good disciple. But I don't know how his perseverance is. There was a faint smile in Zhao Yunqing's eyes. The other 7 experts all understood in their hearts. They all praised third prince's intelligence. "General Zhao, we're going back to the barracks first." Man Dong and the other 2 external experts of the Fierce Tiger Corps immediately folded their hands and said. Their expressions were very respectful, which came from the bottom of their hearts. In the eyes of these military experts, even a Xiantian expert was not as good as General Zhao. "Brother Zhao, congratulations on getting such a good disciple. We'll also take our leave." The Eagle Claw King and the others also folded their hands and said respectfully. There was a circle of internal experts, and there was also a circle of external experts. There were so many external experts in the entire Qianlong continent. In this circle, Zhao Yunqing belonged to the emperor-level figure. He was respected by all external experts. Moreover, Zhao Yunqing was also very good at leading the army. East vanquishing Prince Qinda was willing to let Zhao Yunqing teach him for a year. At that time, Su Yuan was also amazed for a long time. The next day, on the huge training field of Misty Villa, Zhao Yunxing, dressed in a black training suit, stood there alone and motionless. Teacher, Qin Yu, dressed in a training suit, excitedly ran in front of Zhao Yunxing and said respectfully. Zhao Yunxing slightly nodded, then said, "From now on, you must be at the training field at 6 a.m. Right now it's already 8 a.m. You're late by 2 whole hours. First, I'll punish you by running from Misty Villa to the foot of the mountain, then from the foot of the mountain to Misty Villa." In order to make it clear to everybody, the Qianlong continent's time is 24 hours a day, 30 days a month, 360 days a year. Qin Yu was slightly startled. He said angrily at once, "Teacher, this is the first time. You didn't tell me I had to come at 6 a.m. Don't have any doubts about my orders. What you need to do is carry them out." Zhao Yunxing stared coldly at Qin Yu, not compromising at all. Qin Yu bit his lips and said at once, "Yes, teacher." After saying that, he started to run down. Misty Villa was located on the mountainside of Mount Donglan. It was about 2,000 meters from Misty Villa to the foot of the mountain, so it was 4,000 meters to go back and forth. Moreover, he had to climb up the mountain on the way back. It was so difficult that an 8-year-old child couldn't bear it. Seeing Qin Yu start to run, Zhao Yunxing slightly nodded with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Then he returned to his grave and stern appearance. Zhao Yunxing also started to run behind Qin Yu. Zhao Yunxing ran as easily as if he was taking a stroll. His whole body was like the wind, and each step he took covered several meters. Zhao Yunxing followed behind Qin Yu. Qin Yu's eyes sparkled. He pursed his lips and started to run. In the past, he often climbed the mountain and ran from Misty Villa to the top of the mountain. Every time he ran, it was more than 1,000 meters. This made Qin Yu's endurance very good. In addition, he soaked in the hot spring of Misty Villa, so his body was far stronger than his peers. Because he was going down the mountain, Qin Yu didn't find it too strenuous to run 2,000 meters to the foot of the mountain. After running 2,000 meters, he was only panting. Turning around, Qin Yu started to run up. Going down the mountain was easy, but going up the mountain was difficult. After running for only a few hundred meters, Qin Yu felt that it was extremely painful to breathe. Every step was extremely strenuous. Qin Yu felt his leg muscles ache. Every step was extremely strenuous. However, Qin Yu could feel that Zhao Yunxing was beside him. Qin Yu was also stubborn and proud. He immediately clenched his teeth and continued to persevere. Reaching the limit, it was difficult to breathe. His whole chest was like a bellows, sucking in oxygen at an extremely fast speed. "I can't do it." Reaching the physical limit, Qin Yu felt extremely painful. "Father." Thinking of his father, Qin Yu clenched his teeth and continued to persevere. It was getting more and more painful. Qin Yu even felt that he was going to die. However, suddenly, it was as if he had passed a peak. Qin Yu's breathing became slightly more relaxed. After passing the physical limit, Qin Yu maintained a running state that was close to the limit. After running 1,000 meters and seeing the gate of Misty Villa, Qin Yu reached the physical limit for the second time. "We have arrived at Misty Villa." Qin Yu's heart relaxed. He wanted to stop and rest. However, "Run to the training field." Zhao Yunxing's cold voice sounded behind him. Zhao Yunxing was not panting at all. Even his voice did not have the slightest fluctuation. Ordinary people would be panting just by walking up a mountain. However, Zhao Yunxing's breathing did not change at all. Huff, huff. Qin Yu did not say anything. He only breathed rapidly. Qin Yu clenched his teeth and finally ran to the training field. As soon as he arrived at the training field, Qin Yu felt his legs go soft. He was so tired that he felt uncomfortable. He wanted to sit down. "Stand. You are not allowed to sit down." Zhao Yunxing's figure flashed. He arrived in front of Qin Yu. He looked at Qin Yu indifferently. The expression on his face did not change at all. Qin Yu relied on the arrogance in his bones to force himself to stand. He just looked at Zhao Yunxing. Zhao Yunxing nodded and said, "Since you are able to run down, you should be able to feel your physical limit." "Very good. You ran down in one go. From today onwards, you are my disciple Zhao Yunxing." The meaning of Zhao Yunqing's words was very clear. If Qinyu did not finish running, Zhao Yunqing would probably leave and not teach Qinyu anymore. Qinyu just looked at Zhao Yunqing. It was not that he did not want to speak. However, at this moment, he simply could not speak. This was the first time he had run so intensely. All external skills, whether it is the iron palm, iron leg, or others, they all train a certain part of the body. They make it harder than steel and have amazing attack power. They are all offensive methods. No matter what external skills, the body is the foundation. The body is the foundation. A person who is as fast as lightning and can lift 1,000 pounds, no matter what external skills he practices, whether it is the overlord's fist or iron leg, he will definitely be more powerful than a tuberculosis patient. Zhao Yunqing spoke with assurance. At this moment, Qinyu was also out of breath. Hearing Zhao Yunqing's words, he immediately said, "Teacher, I understand. The body is the foundation. A good body is like a piece of unpolished jade. It will be much better if it is carved. A weak body is like a piece of impure jade. Even if the craftsmanship is superb, it will not be a good jade carving." Zhao Yunqing's face had a rare smile. "Very good. It is good that you understand. I will only teach you for 1 year. Within this year, I will train you in all aspects of your body. Strength, speed, flexibility, explosiveness, resistance, etc., so that your body will constantly transform. As for attacking methods, I will not teach you. I will only teach you how to train your body to a perfect state. As for how to use this body to attack and kill people, you will have to figure it out yourself. My training method is the extreme training method. When you were running just now, you must have felt the existence of the physiological limit. However, compared to my training, that is just child's play. Of course, you can choose to give up. If you choose to give up, I will also be relieved. My soldiers are much stronger than a child like you." Zhao Yunqing looked at Qinyu and said indifferently. Qinyu's eyes were firm. Limit. Qinyu felt that he liked the feeling of going beyond the limit. Yes, he liked it. "Teacher, let's start." Qinyu looked at Zhao Yunqing proudly. Zhao Yunqing raised his eyebrows. He was surprised by the firmness of this disciple's heart. There was a satisfied smile on his face. However, Qinyu suddenly had a bitter face. He blinked his eyes and looked at Zhao Yunqing. He said pitifully, "Teacher, can you let me rest for a while? I am really tired from running just now. Let me drink some water first, then soak in the hot spring, and let Grandpa Wen give me a massage. My muscles are very tired." Zhao Yunqing was startled. The expression on his face froze. At this time, Zhao Yunqing's expression was very wonderful. It could be described in one word. That is, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 9. Before I train you, I have to let you understand the essence of my training method. After a year, even if I go back, you have to continue training according to the essence of my training method. Zhao Yunqing stared at Qinyu with a cold face. Hearing the word essence, Qinyu's eyes lit up and he listened attentively. Looking at the world, there are countless external techniques, but most of them are unorthodox. Zhao Yunqing said indifferently. At this moment, he was like an emperor who was passing judgment on the world, criticizing other external techniques as worthless. Qinyu, remember this. To practice external techniques, you have to thoroughly study medicine. Zhao Yunqing stared at Qinyu and said seriously, "Medical path." Although Qinyu found it strange, he still remembered it in his heart. Zhao Yunqing continued, "Why do people practice? The first is for health and longevity, and the second is to strengthen their attack power. People who practice external techniques want their fists and legs to be as hard as diamond. Indeed, they can do it. But their fists are hard. But can they be harder than a saber made of black iron?" Qinyu frowned as he listened. Black iron was more precious. The weapons refined from it were sharper and harder than ordinary iron weapons. The sharpness of a black iron saber would definitely surpass the fists and legs of an external expert. For example, Mandong has already reached the peak of strength training. His strength is great and his muscles are strong, but his speed is slow compared to an expert. I only need a dagger to cut his throat in an instant. Zhao Yunqing said coldly, his body emitting a murderous aura. Qin Yu did not doubt Zhao Yunqing's words at all. Instead, his eyes became brighter as he stared at Zhao Yunqing, listening to every word. Studying medicine, you know that the human body has more than 100 muscles, each with their own function. If you only train one part, it will lead to bad results. Great strength but slow speed, or strong hands and feet, but not agile enough. The speed is fast, but the toughness of the body is not enough. Zhao Yunqing spoke with assurance. At this moment, Qin Yu completely understood what Zhao Yunqing meant. He immediately said excitedly, "Teacher, I understand. Do I have to train all my muscles?" "No." Zhao Yunqing shook his head. "Even if you want to train all your muscles, do you know how to train them?" Qin Yu was stunned. There were so many muscles in the body, and training every single one of them wasn't something that could be achieved through practice alone. It required countless generations of research. What's more, even if there is such a method, it's not advisable. It's the same for external martial arts. You can't practice only one aspect. Similarly, you can't practice everything at once. In the end, you won't achieve anything, because you don't have enough energy. Zhao Yunqing shook his head. Qin Yu was confused. Training only one aspect was wrong, and training all the aspects was also wrong. Then what should he train? A perfect body has to be strong, flexible, explosive, fast, responsive, and resistant. Zhao Yunqing said so many requirements in a row. Qin Yu was dumbfounded for a moment. With so many requirements, how should he train? Zhao Yunqing saw Qin Yu's dumbfounded look and smiled. "Don't worry. I have my own way to train you." Qin Yu suddenly thought of the Eagle Claw King, or the Iron Leg Master. Their claws could easily crush the bluestone. How terrifying was that finger strength. But why didn't Zhao Yunqing say to train parts of the body? "Teacher, why don't you train your hands and feet like the Eagle Claw?" Qin Yu asked. Zhao Yunqing heard Qin Yu's question, and was very happy. He said, "Qin Yu, what you said is reasonable. For example, if you want to train the Eagle Claw or the Iron Palm, you must train your finger strength. In addition, you must often apply medicinal wine to your palms, so that they can absorb the power of the wine. Coupled with constant training, your palms will be as hard as steel." Qin Yu listened and nodded. He had also seen external martial arts training methods. Indeed, it was to constantly train one's strength while applying medicinal wine, to make the palms extremely hard and so on. This kind of training is simply stupid. Zhao Yunqing suddenly scolded. He was very disdainful of this training method. "Teacher, the Eagle Claw is very powerful. Why is it stupid?" Although Qin Yu was more mature than his peers, he was still a child. He had seen the power of the Eagle Claw and the Iron Palm. He couldn't understand Zhao Yunqing's meaning. Zhao Yunqing proudly said, "Eagle Claw? Iron Palm? After applying those poisonous medicinal wine, it will completely harden the skin. You won't even feel the pain. It will simply become a glove. Qin Yu, look at me." Zhao Yunqing stretched out his right hand. Zhao Yunqing's right hand was smooth, and even had a tender feeling. With a flash of white light, an almost transparent glove appeared on Zhao Yunqing's hand. Zhao Yunqing indifferently said, "Wild silk glove. Although it is relatively precious, it is also an ordinary item. It is on the same level as black iron. As long as you are willing to spend money, you can get it." Qin Yu was born in the prince's mansion. Naturally, he knew. Many items were common, such as steel. Wild silk glove and black iron were not much, but they were still not treasures. Treasures, generally, they were obtained from the boundless wilderness. For example, some extremely powerful demonic beasts in the boundless wilderness. Some of those demonic beasts were even more powerful than Xiantian experts, and even surpassed Shangxian. Those demonic beasts' fur, claws, horns, and so on were the top treasures. Although the wild silk glove's toughness is average, it is still tougher than the palms of the Eagle Claw King and the others. Zhao Yunqing took a piece of bluestone. Exerting force with his right hand, he easily crushed the bluestone into powder. He crushed it even more thoroughly than the Eagle Claw King. Zhao Yunqing looked at Qin Yu and said, "Qin Yu, in terms of finger strength, I am not weaker than the Eagle Claw King. Finger strength needs to be trained, but you can't let the skin on your hand become rigid. Do you understand what I mean? Qingyu nodded, but asked doubtfully, Master, what you mean is to protect the palm well. Don't let the palm become like those people who practice the iron palm and the eagle claw king. But what's the benefit of practicing this way? Also, what about the body? Don't tell me I have to wear armor and fight with people? Zhao Yunqing's eyes lit up. He nodded approvingly. Teaching an intelligent disciple is indeed much easier. A lot of things can be understood with just a hint. Protecting the palm well, and not letting the palm become completely rigid is for attacking. The palm can hold a saber, a sword, and use all kinds of weapons to protect the palm well. Keeping the palm's sense of touch in a perfect state is a must for an expert. So much so that many experts soak their hands in milk every day. Zhao Yunqing replied. Qingyu suddenly understood. Attacking still requires the use of weapons. Sabers and swords all require the hand. A hand with a perfect sense of touch, compared to a hand that is completely rigid and has no sense of pain and touch, will naturally be able to control the saber and sword more accurately. Killing, perhaps in a moment, does not allow for the slightest bit of carelessness. As for the legs, the explosive power must be strong, the speed must be fast, and they must be agile. No matter if it is a battle between experts or an army with thousands of men and horses, if the speed of your legs is extremely fast and your agility reaches a terrifying level, even in an army with thousands of men and horses, you will not suffer the slightest injury. Zhao Yunqing said, the legs determine a person's agility. Speed, explosive power, and agile reaction are of course important. Qingyu became even more excited at this moment. He seemed to be able to see himself flickering like a phantom in an army with thousands of men and horses, killing people with a wave of his hand, but the enemy could not touch him in the slightest. This is agility, this is speed. The legs are incomparably important. The hands are flexible and fast. The strength is not as good as the legs, but they can hold weapons and attack wantonly. As for the legs, the muscle strength is greater than the arms. The attack power is extremely strong, and it also determines agility. Both are of the utmost importance, and the torso is the core of the body. On the first day of training, Zhao Yunqing was instilling the most basic essence of Zhao Yunqing's own training method to Qingyu, the most primitive principle. Qingyu listened carefully, engraving every word Zhao Yunqing said in the depths of his mind. Chapter 10. After talking for almost 2 hours, Qingyu completely understood the principles behind his teacher's training method. At the same time, Qingyu admired Zhao Yunqing even more. He could completely determine that if he followed Zhao Yunqing's training method, he would definitely be able to train a perfect body. Strength, speed, agility, flexibility, and so on would all be perfectly coordinated. If a worker wanted to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. After training a perfect body, he would then train in attacking, killing, and other methods. With good steel, would there be any need to worry about not being able to train a good blade? Then, the training would begin. Beside a beautiful round lake several hundred meters away from Misty Villa in Donglan Mountain, Zhao Yunqing stood beside the lake. Beside him was a mechanical pendulum clock. This mechanical pendulum clock was created by an expert who was proficient in mechanisms. Because it was too complicated to make, only aristocratic families would have them. The pendulum clock was divided into 24 hours, and 60 minutes per hour. Quick, swim faster, Zhao Yunqing said coldly. In the round lake, there was a figure swimming continuously. It was Qingyu. According to Zhao Yunqing, although swimming was ordinary, it was an extremely good method to train the body's coordination and flexibility. Therefore, Qingyu was ordered to swim continuously in the round lake. I really want to stop. Qingyu clenched his teeth and waved his arms continuously. His legs also slapped the water in coordination. He had already swum 10 times. This round lake was 200 meters long. 10 rounds would be 2,000 meters. Qingyu used to soak in the hot springs in the West Garden. The center of the hot springs was very deep. Qingyu often swam in it. His swimming skills were very high. However, To swim continuously and finish in the specified time was too painful for Qin. His legs were sore, his arms were sore, and his head was swollen. Father. Whenever he thought of his father's smile, Qin clenched his teeth and continued to persevere. Even though he had already reached his limit, he still persisted. Faster, faster. Zhao Yunqing urged without the slightest bit of emotion. Qin eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness as he stared straight ahead. Hearing Zhao Yunqing's voice, Qin kept urging himself to speed up. At this moment, Qin swollen head suddenly relaxed a little, and his arms and legs seemed to have regained their strength. Qin could clearly feel that there was a surge of strength in his body. He didn't know where this strength came from, but it was produced naturally. There was a trace of excitement in Qin's eyes. Surpassing the limit. He enjoyed this feeling. Every time he exceeded his physical limits, his already powerless body would once again produce a surge of energy from the depths of his body. He could even feel the changes in his body. That was the potential hidden deep within his body. Okay, you're 3 minutes late. Zhao Yunqing looked at the mechanical pendulum clock and said indifferently. Qin reached the shore with difficulty. At this moment he couldn't move at all, especially his arms. His legs were also extremely sore. Qin panted like this, trying his best to breathe in the fresh air, trying his best to recover quickly. You're 3 minutes late. Now, your punishment is to run back to the West Court, and then do 100 squats in the West Court's training field empty-handed. Zhao Yunqing directly ordered. Run back to the West Court from here? And Qin panted and couldn't speak. He looked at Zhao Yunqing in disbelief. At this moment, his legs were so weak that he couldn't even walk. This Zhao Yunqing actually wanted him to run back and do 100 squats. You have a problem with that? Zhao Yunqing asked indifferently. I have a problem with that. Surpassing the limit of the human body can train the body. But if it's too much, my body will collapse. I feel that I've already reached my limit. I can't continue training now. Teacher, when I was swimming just now, I've already felt that kind of limit twice in a row. I feel that I can't experience it again. Qin looked straight at Zhao Yunqing and said directly. Zhao Yunqing said indifferently. I'm a teacher. You must obey my orders. If you feel that there's a problem with my training and don't want to continue training, I can leave immediately. I don't care about a lazy disciple like you. Qin expression changed slightly. Then, Qin glanced at Zhao Yunqing, took a deep breath, and tried his best to urge his legs to run. When he ran for the first step, his legs were extremely swollen and sore. But after running for a while, his legs regained strength. What's going on? Qin was shocked. Zhao Yunqing, who was watching from behind, had a hint of a smile on his face. This kid, don't tell me I can't judge your true limit? When you were swimming, your arms used more strength than your legs. The muscles of your legs are more developed than those of your arms. If your arms can endure, then your legs can at least undergo another set of training. Thinking of how Qin had scolded him just now, Zhao Yunqing laughed in his heart. This kid. Shaking his head with a smile, Zhao Yunqing followed behind Qin. In the evening, in the hot spring of the West Court, after a day of extreme training, Qin was lying in the hot spring, feeling the soreness and numbness in his muscles. He could even feel the gradual changes in his muscles. Qin had a look of enjoyment on his face. He opened his arms and shouted with great affection. Ah, my God, this is true enjoyment. Xiao He was also flapping his wings at the side. He seemed to be very happy. Zhao Yunqing walked over with a grave and stern face. He stood beside the hot spring and said, The hot spring in Misty Mountain Villa is very healing. It's very good for your body. Also, after you've soaked in the hot spring for 3 hours, go to Old Man Wang's place and apply some medicinal wine. Absorb some of the medicinal wine's efficacy. It's very good for your body. And I know. Qin was very happy at the moment. He waved his hand casually. Zhao Yunqing didn't care. He turned around and left. On the training field, Zhao Yunqing stood there straight. Qin had also arrived early. This time Qin wasn't late. It was strange. Although he had trained to the limit yesterday, after the effects of the hot spring and the medicinal wine, he was full of energy today. It's no wonder that most of the people who can practice external martial arts to the limit are from rich and powerful families. Zhao Yunxing sighed in his heart. Practicing external martial arts meant constantly surpassing the limits of the body. However, the body didn't just produce power. It also needed to absorb energy. Rich children could eat nutritious food, eat special medicinal food, and drink precious medicinal wine. They could also ask medical experts to massage their bodies to relieve fatigue. With such conditions, practicing external martial arts would naturally be different. Now let's do strength training. Hold an iron rod and do deep squats. First, 100. Zhao Yunxing casually pointed at an iron rod. The iron rod wasn't too thick. It was estimated to be about 10 jin. It was naturally easy for an adult. However, it was different for the 8-year-old Qinyu. Humph! Qinyu exerted strength in his arms and lifted the iron rod to his chest in one breath. He smiled and said, "Teacher, it's very easy. Let's talk about it after 100. Zhao Yunxing said indifferently. Immediately, Qinyu began to do deep squats. At first, it was very easy. Wasn't it just standing up straight and squatting again? However, after doing 30 squats in a row, Qinyu felt that his legs were sore. If he continued for another 10 squats, the soles of his feet would cramp up. 100 squats. It was only 40 squats, and Qinyu was already feeling uncomfortable. Phew! After taking a deep breath and resting for a moment, the soles of his feet recovered. Qinyu continued to do deep squats. However, the more he did it, the more painful it became. Qinyu's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He gritted his teeth and persisted. After doing 70 squats in one breath, Qinyu felt that his legs couldn't stand up anymore. Ha! Suddenly, Qinyu utters a low shout. He exerts force on his waist and unexpectedly stands up. There is unexpectedly a burning light in his eyes. It is the light of excitement. Ha! With another loud shout, Qinyu stood up again. Again and again, he tried to squeeze out every ounce of strength hidden in his legs. His legs gradually became hot, and a surge of strength emerged from the depths of his muscles. Just like that, almost miraculously, with Qinyu's last shout, he actually completed his 100th squat. Although Qinyu's legs were weak, as if he would fall down at any moment, his eyes were filled with excitement and burning madness. Zhao Yunxing nodded secretly at the side. Now let's start the finger strength training. Zhao Yunxing's expression was still cold. He didn't give Qinyu any time to rest and directly ordered. In fact, Zhao Yunxing's training plan was also well designed. At this moment, Qinyu's legs were the most tired, but his hands hadn't reached their limits. Zhao Yunxing began the finger strength training. Although Qinyu couldn't exert any strength in his legs, he still asked Zhao Yunxing with a smile. "Teacher, how do I train the finger strength?" Qinyu liked the wonderful feeling of going beyond his limits more and more. The moment he went beyond his limits, he felt a kind of passion for life. Yes, passion. The burning of passion, the extreme madness. That feeling was wonderful. Chapter 11. The best way to train your finger strength is to do the finger meditation while standing upside down with one hand. But now your finger strength is still too weak. You'll have to follow the iron palms method to train your finger strength first. This is a heavenly silk cover. Put it on first. When you train your finger strength, you must not damage the muscles and skin of your hands. Zhao Yunxing has already prepared a heavenly silk cover for Qinyu. Qinyu immediately took the heavenly silk cover and put it on his hands happily. This is the white sand on the beach. Use all your strength to shovel and keep shoveling. Don't stop until I tell you to stop. Zhao Yunxing pointed to the white sand in an iron pot not far away and said, "Yes, teacher." Qinyu instead treats this training as a game. But his legs are indeed very sore. Enduring the severe pain, he clenches his teeth and walks to the side of the iron pot 10 m away. Wearing the heavenly silk cover, Qinyu shovels non-stop. Every time he shovels, he tries very hard to the end. Qinyu couldn't help but groan. Although the heavenly silk cover could protect his fingers, it only prevented the sand from touching his fingers. However, when he shoveled with one hand, the force of the sand was really exerted on his hands. The extremely fast shoveling and the force of the white sand gradually made Qin Yu's fingers hurt terribly. Qin Yu couldn't help but secretly reduce the depth of the shovel. Originally, he had shoveled to the bottom, but now he just shoveled half of the sand out. This made it much easier. Shovel to the bottom. Don't be lazy, Zhao Yunqing said coldly. Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He could only grit his teeth and continue. Although Qin Yu liked the feeling of surpassing his limits, the 10 fingers were connected to the heart. The pain from his 10 fingers really made him suffer. After all, he was only an 8-year-old child. Moreover, he was the 3rd son of East Vanquishing Prince. He had a noble status, and had never suffered so much before. Pooh! His hand suddenly shoveled to the bottom. The severe pain made Qin Yu unable to restrain his tears. Zhao Yunqing looked on coldly, looking at the 8-year-old child in front of him, who was crying while shoveling sand. Zhao Yunqing didn't seem to have the slightest bit of pity, and kept on asking. Tears flowed down her face, but she still had to shovel it. Qin Yu had been training for half a year now. His daily training, coupled with his increased appetite, had made his body much stronger than before. Under a waterfall on Mount Donglan. Ha! With a flying kick, Zhao Yunqing actually kicked several huge rocks to the bottom of the waterfall. In a moment, several rocks formed a place where people could stand. The waterfall poured down from a high place and smashed on the surface of the rocks, splashing countless white water droplets. Your legs are as steady as a mountain, and as fast as lightning. This waterfall is not a big waterfall. After squatting for so long, you should be able to maintain a stable horse stance under this waterfall with the strength of your legs. Zhao Yunqing pointed at the blue stone and said, Stand on it. You must stand firm. It's not a big waterfall. Qin Yu looked at the waterfall that swooped down from an extremely high place. The huge impact smashed on the rocks, creating a loud rumbling sound. If this waterfall wasn't a waterfall, then what kind of waterfall could be considered a big waterfall? After squatting for half a year, Qin Yu's leg muscles were now much stronger than before. Yes, Qin Yu slowly stands on the edge of the blue stone at once. The waterfall is rushing down, so the blue stone is not under much pressure. Qin Yu assumes a horse stance on the edge of the blue stone, so he can withstand the pressure relatively easily. Stand in the center, Zhao Yunqing said coldly. Qin Yu felt helpless. He could only slowly move his feet toward the center. The closer he was to the center, the greater the impact of the water. Qin Yu could already feel his body shaking, but he had to stand in the center. Not good. Qin Yu felt his body shake. His legs couldn't support him, and he was immediately washed into the lake. Continue, Zhao Yunqing said indifferently. It was dark. Qin Yu was lying in the hot spring. He was so comfortable that his eyes narrowed. Every day in the hot spring was Qin Yu's greatest enjoyment. He didn't have such a feeling in the past, but now that he had trained to the limit every day, every time he entered the hot spring, his muscles would feel soreness and numbness. It was very cool. Xiao He had only grown a little in half a year. However, golden feathers had appeared on its head. The rest of its body was still black. Xiao He's growth rate was much slower than that of an ordinary eagle. At this moment, Xiao He was also wandering around the hot spring. Qin Yu has fallen asleep. He has fallen asleep in the hot spring. He trained every day during the day and soaked in the hot spring for 6 hours at night. He specially fixed a reclining chair in the hot spring. When he soaked in the hot spring, he slept in it. In the latter half of the night, he asked the medical expert Wang Xian to massage him and apply medicinal wine. At that time, Qin Yu could read a book. It could be said that he didn't waste any time. Beside the hot spring, 2 figures suddenly appeared. They were none other than Lian Yan and Zhao Yunqing. The 2 of them were looking at Qin Yu, who was sleeping soundly. Xiao Yu hasn't reached 9 years old yet. He's still a child. Looking at the sparkling and translucent saliva at the corners of Qin Yu's mouth, and his still immature little face, Lian Yan felt a burst of pity in his heart. Having taken care of Qin Yu since he was a child, Lian Yan completely regarded Qin Yu as his own grandson. Zhao Yunqing showed a rare faint smile. He looked at Qin Yu and nodded, saying, Xiao Yu is a very strong child. The training I gave him was definitely his real limit. If he exceeded this limit, his body would have collapsed. I didn't expect him to be able to persevere. At that time, when His Highness had me train the army, I carried out the limit training in an army of 100,000 people, completely reaching the limit of a normal soldier. But only 1,000 people were able to persevere for a year. The main reason Zhao Yunxing trained the army at that time was because ordinary soldiers couldn't eat precious medicinal cuisine, soak in the hot spring to relieve fatigue, and have professional medical experts to massage them and so on, like Qin Yu. However, those soldiers were all adults, but Qin Yu was only a child. Even a child could persevere. This indeed surprised and gratified Zhao Yunxing. Looking at Qin Yu's sleeping appearance, Lian Yan and Zhao Yunxing walked away with a smile, leaving Qin Yu still sleeping. He was completely unaware that someone had come. His small mouth was slightly open, but there was a happy and sweet smile on his face. The sparkling and translucent saliva at the corners of his mouth was on the corners of his mouth. Perhaps in the dream, he was together with his father. His father hadn't come here for almost 2 years. Running with weights, squatting with weights, martial arts training under waterfall, continuous explosive training under resistance, boxing training under water resistance, moving around while wearing weights all day long, flexibility training, finger strength training, agility training, speed training. Zhao Yunxing carried out all-round training for Qin Yu according to a certain pattern and various training methods. Qin Yu also broke through his physiological limit unceasingly during Zhao Yunxing's training. His physical skills were also improving rapidly. 1 year later, 9-year-old Qin Yu was wearing trousers, and his upper body was naked. The muscles on his whole body didn't bulge, showing an almost perfect streamlined shape, just like a cheetah. Qin Yu, you have a very strong will. Nothing else is important in limit training. The most important thing is that you have a strong will. Zhao Yunxing looked at Qin Yu and smiled like never before at Qin Yu. Teacher is going back to the army. Remember, limit, challenge limit, surpass limit. As long as you continue to work hard, you will succeed one day. Qin Yu looked at his teacher in front of him. For the past year, Qin Yu was even secretly angry at his teacher's heartlessness. Every time Qin Yu trained, tears would flow down his face. But today, when he saw the gratified smile on his teacher's face, he suddenly understood everything. Teacher, I definitely won't let you down. Qin Yu looked at Zhao Yunxing and said with determination. Zhao Yunxing smiled and nodded. Then he suddenly turned around and walked out of Misty Mountain Villa in large strides. Following the roar of a fierce tiger, Qin Yu's eyes turned slightly red. Qin Yu understood that from today onwards, he would have to train by himself. Chapter 12. The boundless wilderness is filled with towering mountains and lofty ridges, boundless jungles and demonic beasts. The wilderness is so large that nobody knows about it. The 3 eastern region counties claim to have 600,000 troops, of which 400,000 are stationed on the edge of the wilderness. The remaining 200,000 troops are stationed outside the Blackwater Mountain Range. There are nearly 200,000 bandits in the Blackwater Mountain Range, making it the #1 bandit stronghold in the world. Because these bandits are very familiar with the terrain of the Blackwater Mountain Range, they have the geographical advantage. Therefore, East Vanquishing Prince's 200,000 troops have always been stationed outside the mountain range to deter the Blackwater bandits. In a heavily guarded room in Taifeng City on the edge of the wilderness, East Vanquishing Prince Qin Da is holding a book and reading it quietly. Your Highness, Zhao Yunxing bows outside the door and says, Come in, Yunxing. Qin Da says directly without raising his head. Zhao Yunxing bows and enters the room. He stands on one side of the room and quietly waits for Qin Da to speak. Zhao Yunxing has nothing but reverence for East Vanquishing Prince Qin Da in his heart. Qin Da puts down the book in his hand and raises his head to look at Zhao Yunxing. He says with a faint smile, Yunxing, you've been teaching Yuer for a year. Tell me, does Yuer have a future in external techniques? Your Highness, Third Prince is very hard-working, and very hard-working. His perseverance is even stronger than many adults. Zhao Yunxing says at once. A faint smile appears on Qin Da's face. Zhao Yunxing continues. But third prince's natural aptitude can only be considered above average. Historically, only people with extremely high natural aptitude have been able to practice external techniques to the extreme. But with the nourishment of Misty Villa's hot springs and the frequent use of precious medicinal cuisines, third prince still has a chance to reach the extreme of external techniques. The extreme of external techniques is the extreme of the Hotian level, close to the Xiantian level. When one's external techniques reach this level, one can even put up a fight against an early-stage Xiantian internal technique expert. How many years will it take? Qinda asks in reply. Zhao Yunqing thinks for a while, then says, I think it will take 30 years. And this is third prince's persistence. In external techniques, the more you reach the later stages, the harder it is to make progress. For example, third prince will have no problem reaching 300 to 400 jin in one hand after practicing for 10 odd years. But the extreme of external techniques should reach 700 to 800 jin in one hand. The later stages will be harder. 30 years, that's about it. Qinda shook his head and sighed. 30 years is too long. However, to be able to protect himself in 10 years is already not bad. All right, Yunqing, you go back first. Qinda says with a smile. Zhao Yunqing immediately bows and says. Subordinate takes his leave. Soon after, Zhao Yunqing left the room, leaving Qinda alone. After a long time, a low sigh resounded in the room. Qinyu stayed in a horse stance and persevered on the bluestone under the waterfall. Feeling the impact of the waterfall, Qinyu secretly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, when he started training, Zhao Yunqing paid attention to the body's ability to resist attacks, and often smeared medicinal wine all over his body. This made Qinyu's resistance to attacks not small. Otherwise he would not have been able to withstand the impact of the waterfall. Persevere. Qinyu constantly asked himself in his heart. Zhao Yunqing was no longer here, so there was no one to ask him. Qinyu also had the thought of being lazy. After all, he was training alone and nobody would reprimand him for being lazy. Moreover, he was still a child. However, as soon as that thought appeared, it was strangled by him. His big brother, his second brother, and even his father. None of them were lazy and none of them were weak. As a descendant of the Qin clan, and the son of East vanquishing Prince Qinda, he naturally would not be weak. Work hard. Persevere, persevere. Feeling his legs go soft, Qinyu constantly encouraged himself in his heart. He even felt the trembling of his leg muscles. Every time he persevered for a long time, strength would gush out from the depths of his muscles. Suddenly, with a numb leg, Qinyu was thrown into the lake with a bang sound. Various sandbags are hanging upside down on the training ground. There are 6 sandbags in total. Qinyu is standing among them quietly. Ha! Qinyu shouted loudly and fiercely punched a sandbag. Almost in an instant, Qinyu smashed 3 or 4 sandbags at the same time. Those sandbags swayed and bumped into other sandbags. Immediately, the whole group of sandbags shook. Without any trajectory, a sandbag originally rushed forward, but when it bumped into another sandbag, it changed its trajectory. Bang! 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 Qinyu's eyes emitted a sharp light. Both of his hands quickly hit each of the sandbags. This was to train one's reaction speed. Reaction speed was related to arm muscles, and at the same time, it was also related to one's reaction speed. Reaction speed could also be improved through training. In a battle between experts, between life and death, a quick reaction could take the opponent's life. Following Qinyu's rapid attacks, those sandbags swayed faster and faster. Qinyu also felt the pressure increase for a moment. Suddenly, his back bumped into Qinyu's back. His body involuntarily became chaotic. Immediately, 3 or 4 sandbags smashed onto his body. Bang! Qinyu immediately fell to the ground, but he quickly climbed back up. Qinyu sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at his knee. His knee had already been completely scraped, and blood was seeping out. There was also some sand and stones on the ground. Clearly when he fell, his knee had struck the sand and stones. I actually didn't clean it properly. Qinyu was helpless. Before training, he had already cleaned it once. Who would have thought that he hadn't cleaned it properly? Continue. Ignoring his injuries, Qin Yu swept the sand and stones far away. Then he rushed to the center of the sandbags, and once again began to train his reaction speed. Lying on a chair with only his underpants, Qin Yu's entire body was smeared with medicinal wine. He was holding a book in his hand. At this moment, several lanterns were lit in the courtyard. Qin Yu sat beside a lantern and could clearly see the words on the book. Although teacher Zhao Yunxing had gone back, Qin Yu didn't lower his requirements at all. In fact, he was even stricter. Every day, he would train for an entire day. From night to midnight, he would absorb the nourishment from the hot spring to let his body recover. At the same time, it was also Qin Yu's sleeping time. At this moment, after applying medicinal wine to Wang Xian, it was time to read. It's been a long time since I went to the top of the mountain to look at the stars. Qin Yu looked up at the stars in the sky. There was a trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth. But it's not bad to look at the stars in the courtyard. Xiaohei, don't you think so? Hey Xiaohei, I say, are you still an eagle? Why do you grow so slowly? You even have golden hair on your head? While saying, Qin Yu touched Xiaohei beside him. Xiaohei's eyes faintly lit up. He flapped his wings again and again, as if he didn't want Qin Yu to touch his head. He then proudly raised his head, appearing very arrogant. Qin Yu immediately burst out laughing. Forget it. I don't want to waste time with you. I'm going to read seriously. I have to continue training tomorrow. Qin Yu immediately started to read the thread-like book in his hand. It was a medical book. Qin Yu remembered clearly that Zhao Yunxing had said that if one wanted to become a real external expert, he had to be proficient in medical skills. Lian Yan was hiding in the shadow beside the gate of the courtyard. He was looking at Qin Yu kindly, especially when he heard Qin Yu say that he didn't want to waste time playing with the black eagle. Lian Yan felt a burst of pity in his heart. Qin Yu was only 9 years old, but he didn't waste any time in a day. Qin Yu planned every minute well. Everything was for the sake of painstakingly training. But what was the point of all this? He hadn't been to Misty Villa for a very long time. While reading the book, it was already dawn. Some of the pastries, and so on next to Qin Yu's chair, had also been eaten up by Qin Yu. Qin Yu put down the book in his hand. He raised his head and looked at the sky. He stretched himself very happily and said with a brilliant smile on his face, "A new day begins in the morning. A new day has come. Qin Yu, work hard. Work hard and you'll succeed. A new day of training has begun." Chapter 13. In the hot spring. Qin Yu stood there with a determined look in his eyes. Don't think that Qin Yu was soaking in the hot spring. He was doing explosive training with resistance in the water. Explosive training with resistance in the water was helpful for the body's explosive power. Rather than training in other lakes, it was better to train in the hot spring. First, the water in the hot spring had resistance, and second, it could nourish the body continuously. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Punch. Withdraw. Kick. Withdraw. Qin Yu punched and kicked rapidly in the water. Every time, Qin Yu would explode with his strongest strength, allowing his speed to reach the fastest. Qin Yu was in the horse stance, and he didn't sway in the water. This was also the skill of the horse stance for a long time. The flowing water had its own unique trajectory. Qin Yu would increase the speed of his punches and kicks every time. Naturally, the trajectory of his punches and kicks began to change. What should be the trajectory of his punches? Straight line? Curved line? None of them were right. Nothing is absolute. Straight lines and curves blend with each other. Everything is for the sake of making his punches faster and more powerful, so that he will receive less resistance. Everything is for the sake of greater power and greater speed. Qin Yu attacks nonstop. At this moment, Qin Yu's arms and legs were tied with small pieces of iron. On the training field, Qin Yu is wearing only a pair of underpants and taking a horse stance. There is a burly bodyguard on one side of him. The burly bodyguard is holding a wooden stick in his hand. At the moment, Qin Yu is doing resistance training. Only by continuously taking hits and absorbing medicinal wine can the body become even stronger and more valiant. When trained to the extreme, the The body can even withstand knives and spears. Uncle Yang, use more strength, Qin Yu said to the burly guard beside him with dissatisfaction. Yang Shan hurriedly advised, "Third Prince, it's about time. The training can end now." Yang Shan looked at the red marks on Qin Yu's body, and then looked at the indifferent expression on Qin Yu's immature face. He felt a burst of heartache. When Qin Yu was 6 years old, Yang Shan and the others had come to Misty Villa together. For the past 3 years, they had all watched this child grow up. Who could bear to hit this child? But Yang Shan was forced to fight, because this was the resistance training of external training. If I tell you to hit me, then hit me. Forget it, I'll do it myself. Qin Yu shook his head and smiled. As he spoke, he reached for the wooden club. When Yang Shan saw this, he quickly retreated, refusing to let Qin Yu hold the wooden club himself. He hurriedly said, Okay, I'll continue. Put more strength into it, right? I got it." Yang Shan didn't dare to let Qin Yu hit himself. When Qin Yu hit himself, he would hit himself to the limit. Yang Shan still remembered that day when Qin Yu's body was even broken. Pa, 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 pa. The wooden club hit Qin Yu's body again and again. Qin Yu stayed in a horse stance, pursed his lips, and stubbornly endured without making a sound. Red marks appeared on Qin Yu's body. This made Yang Shan feel a burst of pain in his heart. Although he was now a soldier, when he was 9 years old, he was still herding cows at home. But as the third prince of the East vanquishing prince's residence, Qin Yu didn't waste any time. He constantly trained to reach the limits of the human body. Qin Yu's eyes were like stars. From his gaze, one could judge Qin Yu's determination. It was as unshakable as Mount Tai. "Xiaoyu, today's training volume is a bit too much. Tomorrow the training volume will be slightly reduced." Qin Yu is lying on the bed. An old man with a head full of white hair is massaging him again and again while saying to him in concern. This old man is none other than Wang Xian, a medical expert. He is one of the best medical experts in the East vanquishing prince's mansion. When Qin sent Wang Xian to Misty Villa in the past, the people of the princely mansion were astonished as to why the prince was willing to send a medical expert to a villa. "It's okay, Grandpa Wang. With your unique massage technique and medicinal wine, I'll be fine the next day." Qin Yu curled his lips. He didn't care in the slightest. Wang Xian's hands didn't move fast, but there was a pattern to them. Some were patting, some were kneading, some were poking, and some were caressing. All kinds of techniques were different. Moreover, Wang Xian's hands were smeared with medicinal wine. Following his unique massage technique, the medicinal effect of the medicinal wine quickly integrated into Qin Yu's body. Seeing Qin Yu's indifferent appearance, Wang Xian smiled and shook his head. At the same time, he couldn't help but integrate the true qi in his body into the massage technique. So cool. Qin Yu felt his body warm up. He couldn't help but cry out in comfort. Wang Xian smiled. If he didn't want to, he wouldn't use all his strength like this. Even the internal energy in his body wasn't stingy in the slightest. As for Qin Yu, Wang Xian was very concerned. After all, seeing a child training so much every day, how could he not be soft-hearted and distressed? "Alright, Xiaoyu, in the future, don't try too hard when training. That Zhao Yunxing is also too much. What kind of extreme training is this? If it weren't for the hot spring in Misty Villa, and me helping you dredge your meridians every day, and integrating the medicinal wine's medicinal effect into your body, how could a child like you endure it?" Wang Xian sighed. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Zhao Yunxing. Qin Yu smiled brilliantly at Wang Xian and said, "I know, Grandpa Wang, you're the best. Go to bed early, Grandpa Wang. Goodbye." Wang Xian immediately smiled and nodded. He also entrusted Qin Yu with some instructions. Qin Yu then left Wang Xian's residence. Tonight, the sky was filled with extremely bright stars. Teacher has left. With the daily training, my body will also become stronger and stronger. The amount of training must be increased. Moreover, I should also add some other training methods. Qin Yu thought to himself as he looked at the stars in the sky. Afterwards, Qin Yu directly walked into the underground secret rooms of the North Garden. Qin Yu was very familiar with all kinds of mechanisms, Entering the secret room where secret manuals were stored, he saw that there were many secret manuals on the long table. Qin didn't put them away. After all, only he and Lian Yin knew how to open this secret room. Qin immediately looked at the 28 external secret manuals. There were all kinds of training methods in these external secret manuals. Qin wanted to find some suitable methods for himself. Suddenly, Qin eyes were unconsciously attracted by the only golden color in the secret manuals. Among the 96 secret manuals, only one was made of golden paper. It glittered with golden light and was naturally incomparably eye-catching. It was none other than the ancestral dragon arts. An idea suddenly popped into Qin mind. At that time I couldn't practice internal energy, but now I've been training my body for more than a year, and I'm a lot stronger than before. Maybe the problem with my dantian will disappear automatically. Qin thought so. After all, for people who were generally ill, after practicing martial arts, their illness will disappear automatically. But Qin forgot that his dantian was different from that of ordinary people. It wasn't an illness. It was innate. But Qin was still a child. Moreover, he had always wanted to increase his strength quickly. It was normal for him to have this idea. No matter what, I'll give it a try first. It won't waste much time anyway. Qin immediately sits down with legs crossed on the bed. He takes the ancestral dragon art and starts to practice according to the contents of the first chapter. His mind becomes empty, and he enters an ethereal state. In just a moment, Qin felt the spiritual energy of heaven and earth being absorbed into his body. It turned into a warm current and was much stronger than the one he had experienced more than a year ago. Sure enough, with a strong body, the absorption of spiritual energy of heaven and earth is much faster. Let's start the circulation. Qin immediately controlled the warm current to circulate in his body. According to the trajectory of the ancestral dragon art's small circulation, the warm current constantly changed and then merged into his dantian. Qin is excited in his heart. He carefully senses whether or not this small stream of internal energy will disperse. It must not dissipate. It must not dissipate. Qin was looking forward to it. He focused even more and felt this small stream of internal energy with all his mind. Limit training was the best way to train one's mind. Qin had been training for such a long time. His mental strength was much stronger than ordinary people. It was also many times stronger than when he first started practicing. He could clearly feel the internal energy slowly dissipating in his dantian. Then it dispersed in all directions along his limbs and bones. Sigh, I failed again. Qin sighed in his heart. Suddenly, that's not right. Qin seems to have discovered a shocking secret. He concentrates all of his attention on the internal energy that has spread out. Even though most of that internal energy has spread out into the air through his limbs and bones, there is still a part of it that unexpectedly fuses with his body's muscles and bones. To be precise, Qin's muscles and bones were like sand. The internal energy was like water. The water flowed through the sand, but a portion of the water was still absorbed. This was the same principle. Although the internal energy flowed into the outside world, a portion of the energy was still absorbed. Qin's eyes lit up. That's great, that's great, that's great. Qin was so excited that his whole body trembled. Although absorbing the effects of the medicinal wine can replenish the body's muscles, how can it be compared to internal energy? I can't accumulate internal energy, but my muscles can absorb internal energy. It makes my muscles stronger and allows my external cultivation to be faster and faster. Qin was so excited that he could even hear his heart beating violently. Father, I will definitely succeed. Qin's eyes shone brightly. There had never been a moment when Qin was so confident. Qin's path of external cultivation was filled with danger. On the dark path, a ray of light was shining. Chapter 14. As the inner strength fused with his muscles, Qin's muscles and bones began to transform. As he absorbed the inner strength, the flexibility and potential of his muscles continued to increase. This allowed Qin's body to train at a speed that no one had ever imagined before. Time passed by. Qin's strength also rapidly increased. Half a year later, Zhao Yunxing had returned for a year, and Qin Yu was now 10 years old. On the mountain path of Donglan Mountain, Qin Yu's eyes were like a hawk's as he stared straight ahead. His legs took large strides as he ran. Outsiders would not be able to imagine that his arms and legs were covered with 5-gene heavy iron protective gear. His legs were also covered with 10-gene heavy iron protective gear. The iron vest on his body was also about 20-gene heavy. Qin Yu ran at an extremely fast speed without stopping at all. The different parts of the body that were loaded with weights were also different in difficulty. If he only carried the weights on his back, it would be easier for his legs to run. However, with the weights on his arms and legs, running with his legs required a lot of strength. At the same time, this was also a way to train the explosive strength of Qin Yu's arms and legs. The peak of the mountain was already in sight. Qin Yu could not help but have a bright smile on his face. The improvement of my strength in this half a year has surpassed the previous year of training. The potential and flexibility of my muscles have increased by a lot. Moreover, absorbing inner strength is much better for the flexibility of my muscles compared to other training methods. Yes, continue to work hard. Qin Yu's eyes were filled with excitement. For the past half a year, he had been constantly training his inner strength late at night. Although his dantian was unable to store inner strength, his muscles had absorbed a portion of the inner strength that was emitted. At this moment, Qin Yu's muscle flexibility and even its potential had increased by a lot. The 3 internal experts, who have been following Qin Yu in secret, are also extremely shocked in their hearts. These 3 experts have been secretly protecting Qin Yu. They were also worried that Qin Yu would be injured or faint when he was training alone. Then they would be able to help him. However, for the past half a year, they had seen Qin Yu continuously increase the difficulty of his training. The degree of increase had even shocked the 3 inner strength experts. However, Qin Yu had still managed to endure it. Under the waterfall, Qin Yu was still carrying the same weight as before. He was in a horse stance under the waterfall, enduring the impact of the waterfall. Under the impact of the waterfall, Qin Yu shouted in a low voice. From time to time, he rapidly punched out with his fists. The shadows of his fists were like wind and thunder, hitting the waterfall one by one. As he trained the attacking power of his arms, the water splashed everywhere. Under the sunlight, the rainbow-colored light was very eye-catching. Qin Yu took a horse stance, but he remained motionless like an ancient pine tree. With the increase in weight, the pressure on my legs has indeed increased. Qin Yu bit his lips and tried to stabilize his legs. At this moment, Qin Yu's legs were not only affected by the impact of the waterfall, but also by the weight on his body. Of course, it was very difficult for him to persist. However, the existence of the weight also increased Qin Yu's gravity and stabilized his center of gravity. Under the constant impact of the waterfall, Qin Yu's legs were under more and more pressure. To reach that kind of extreme state, one needed to persist. At the peak of the physiological limit, Qin Yu could clearly feel a warm current gushing out from the depths of his muscles, allowing his legs to gain strength again. Because his muscles absorbed the inner strength, now every time he reached the limit, the strength he felt was much greater than before. This also allowed Qin Yu to improve a lot faster. Night. Qin Yu closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the bed. He constantly absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and then converted it into inner strength and transferred it into his dantian. Then the inner strength dispersed in all directions. Qin Yu's muscles, which were constantly being tempered by him, were like a thirsty traveler, constantly absorbing the inner strength. After a night, Qin Yu opened his eyes. Just as I thought, the more I train, the more inner strength my muscles absorb. The inner strength I absorbed today is about 1/5 of the total amount. Qin Yu's face was full of excitement. The speed at which the inner strength dissipated was very fast. Most of it scattered into the air, and only a small part was absorbed. Now that he could absorb 1/5 of it, it was already very high. Qin Yu suddenly got up, and suddenly felt his whole body was filled with strength. The inner strength was absorbed into his muscles, which greatly increased the hidden potential of his muscles. A new day has arrived, let's continue training. Qin Yu smiled and rushed out of the room. Day after day of training, Qin Yu's body also quietly underwent a transformation. As he grew older, Qin Yu reached the age of puberty. Puberty. This was a period of rapid improvement in the human body's physiology. Suddenly, Qin Yu's appetite soared, and the various functions of his body increased at an even faster speed. From the age of 10 to 11, Qin Yu's improvement was the greatest in the 3 years of training. In this year, not only did his body develop, his bones increased, and his muscles increased. Every day, the rate of his muscles absorbing inner strength increased by a lot. At the age of 11, Qin Yu's height reached about 1.6 meters. His strength could be said to have multiplied several times. On the training field, Qin Yu wore a black training suit and sat casually. It was rare that he didn't have a rest. Wearing a training suit, one couldn't tell from his appearance. At this moment, Qin Yu's arms were loaded with 10 jin of arm guards, and his legs were loaded with 20 jin of leg guards. He was also wearing a 40 jin iron vest, which was equivalent to carrying 100 jin of weight. However, this was nothing to Qin Yu, who had trained for 3 years. This little bit of strength is still very lacking. As soon as Qin Yu thinks of the 8 external experts in the past, he feels that he is very weak. Man Dong's arm was 800 jin, and he could probably carry 1,000 jin of weight easily. Compared to him, Qin Yu was indeed very weak. However, Qin Yu forgot. He had only trained for 3 years. If he hadn't discovered the wonderful use of inner strength after Zhao Yunxing left, he would have needed at least 6 to 7 years to reach this level. Moreover, Qin Yu's path was different from other external experts. A body not only depended on strength, but also flexibility, speed, explosive power, resistance, and many other things. Qin Yu's strength was inferior to Man Dong's. But in terms of speed, Man Dong was even inferior to Qin Yu. Qin Yu's speed was very fast. Moreover, his body's flexibility was also very good, far surpassing that of ordinary external experts. When a wooden bucket was filled with water, it didn't depend on the highest plank, but on the lowest plank. Balance was very important. At a glance, Qin Yu, who was sitting on the chair, was like a leopard full of power. After 3 years of training and physical development, Qin Yu's height was 1.6 meters. Qin Yu had also advanced from a child to a teenager, and he was a teenager who was much stronger than ordinary adults. At this moment, the teenager was pondering. Teacher said that in order to train external martial arts, one must first train a perfect body. Then, through this body, one can learn all kinds of fighting techniques. However, fighting techniques can't be learned in a day or 2. I should start learning now. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with wisdom. In the past 3 years, Qin Yu had read all the Chinese medicine books and many other books in the study. The more books he read, the higher the logical ability of Qin Yu's brain, and the more he thought about things, the deeper his understanding of Zhao Yunxing's words. From now on, half of the daytime will be used to continue training my body, and the other half will be used to comprehend my own attacking techniques. Qin Yu suddenly stood up, walked directly out of the training field, and walked towards the study, still wearing the 100 kilograms weight. Qin Yu, 24 hours a day, except for taking a bath, almost never took off the weight. The prototype of a perfect body had been formed. How could he use this body to attack? Zhao Yunxing had his own way, and Qin Yu certainly had his own way. Only by creating an attack method based on one's own body would it be the best and most powerful attack method. What Qin Yu needed to do now was to comprehend and create such an attacking method. Chapter 15. Time goes by. Apart from training, Qin Yu spends most of his time comprehending his own attack methods. He determines that he must do 3 things in order to comprehend his own attack methods: body maneuvering, close quarters attacks, and weapons. Body movement. Body movement was related to dodging, defense, close combat, and escaping. Qin Yu's requirement for body movement was to be as fast as lightning and as agile as a cunning rabbit. To study body movement, he had to study Qi Min Dunjia and other body movement techniques. Close combat. In the process of training, Qingyu found that he liked to challenge his limits. He liked to have his blood boil. When he had to choose to attack, he chose to cultivate close combat. Close combat, in an instant, could decide life and death. It was the most dangerous, but also filled with the passion of life. Weapons. Until now, Qingyu had not decided what weapons to use. Swords, spears, rods, and other weapons all had their own specialties. Qingyu preferred to use his own fists and legs. At least, he had not decided what weapons to use yet. In the study, Qingyu held a book. The title of the book was The Book of Changes. The principles of this chapter seems to be similar to the third page of the Ancestral Dragon Arts, the body movement technique, 9 appearances of the Cloud Dragon. Qingyu muttered, then closed the book in his hands. His heart naturally began to sort out some of the knowledge he had read. Various body movement techniques, or other Dunjia techniques, constantly floated in Qingyu's mind. 6 elements, 3 wonders, 8 gates, and 9 stars are arranged to form Qi Men Dunjia. The 8 gates are Du Shang Jing Xiu Shang Si Jing Kai. Qi Men Dunjia is divided into Heaven Gate and Earth. These are the 3 talents. Some of the basic concepts of Qi Men Dunjia took root in Qingyu's mind. Although these were the most basic, they were also the most basic. Countless formations and escape techniques were derived from these most basic principles. All kinds of profound body movement techniques were more or less affected. Because Qingyu cultivated external techniques, he did not have any internal strength. Ordinary body movement techniques could not be cultivated. He could only create his own. 68 inner force secret manuals were usually accompanied by fist techniques, saber techniques, body techniques, and so on that corresponded to inner force. Even the 28 external martial arts manuals contained all sorts of attacking methods. Qingyu studied the 96 internal and external martial arts manuals, studying all kinds of attacking methods and body movements. Then, he combined them with the Qimen Duanjia and the Book of Changes to find the hidden truth of body movements. These were all very difficult, but Qingyu studied them day and night, as soon as he finished training his body. If one wanted to reach the pinnacle of external martial arts, they would have to study the art of medicine. This was what Zhao Yunxing had taught Qingyu on the first day. At this moment, Qingyu was reading medical books. Over the past 3 years, Qingyu had read many medical books, and had a lot of understanding in his heart. Every bit of power, every bit of attack must make the enemy pay the greatest price. A palm strike to the opponent's stomach will at most cause a little pain in the stomach, but the same palm strike can cut the opponent's throat and kill them. Qingyu closed the book, his eyes shining. Qingyu remembered all kinds of vital points of the human body clearly in his mind. The body's joints, meridians, and blood flow. Attack the vital points, attack the vital acupoints, attack the physiological weak points, or break the bones and joints, and so on. In short, the principle of Qingyu's attack was, let every bit of power achieve the greatest damage, and never waste a bit of power. One hand had the strength of 100 jin, but it had to reach the attack power of a master with one hand of 200 jin, or even more powerful. To achieve this, one had to work hard in all kinds of ways, such as body movements, attacking the vital points, taking advantage of the surrounding time and place, taking advantage of the opponent's psychological changes, and so on. Qingyu was very confident. He had speed, explosive power, flexibility, and other aspects of his body that were well coordinated. He also had all kinds of secret manuals for him to study. At noon on the training field, one by one mechanical wooden puppets were placed on the training field, forming a wooden puppet alley. This was the ultimate achievement of the master machinists. It was very difficult to beat the wooden puppet alley, and it was not something an ordinary person could do. Today, Qingyu decided to use the wooden puppet alley to practice his close combat skills. Qingyu stood in front of the wooden puppet alley motionless. Suddenly, Qingyu rushed into the wooden puppet alley. When he touched the first wooden puppet, all the wooden puppets in the wooden puppet alley began to move. Qingyu's eyes were only calm. Bang! 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 His hands attacked at lightning speed, directly breaking the wooden puppet's joints. His legs were mainly used for defense. and from time to time, he would kick and break the wooden puppet. Qin Yu's speed was very fast, but it was only because he had taken off the weights. Qin Yu knew that it was impossible for him to break through the wooden puppet alley with those 100 pounds of weights on him. Without the 100 pounds of weights, Qin Yu's speed was very fast, but there were too many wooden puppets in the wooden puppet alley. Qin Yu was still hit on the head by one of the wooden puppets. After being hit once, he was hit several times in succession. Qin Yu could only roll and immediately escape. Not bad. Every wooden puppet's joints are similar to the human body's joints. This way, the training effect will be much better. Qin Yu's eyes lit up, and once again rushed into the wooden puppet alley. In Qin Yu's plan, the wooden puppet alley was just a relatively easy training method. Above the wooden puppet alley was the copper puppet alley. Of course, it was not to cast a copper puppet, but to cover it with a layer of copper and iron skin. This way, the copper puppet's attack and defense would be significantly stronger. As for what weapon to use, Qin Yu had not made up his mind. Late one night, Qin Yu was in the secret room again, carefully studying the attack methods attached to each secret book. Most of them were sabers and swords, but there were also a few strange weapons. Qin Yu suddenly opened a secret book of internal strength. In one of the chapters, when talking about sword skills, there was a hint. Although our sex afterimage sword is an assassination sword, in terms of assassination and close combat, the number 1 is still the Yu family's sword. No matter who he kills, the assassin Yu family has never failed. In the past, he was the legendary number 1 assassin of the assassin organization Skynet. Qin Yu was shocked. Qin Yu had also heard of the Skynet. This was a very ancient assassin organization, with a history of over 1,000 years. Its influence was spread all over the Qianlong continent. The history of the 3 countries in the Qianlong continent was not as long as the Skynet. This assassin Yu family was called the legendary number 1 assassin, so his killing methods must be extraordinary. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes widened. Yu family's sword, Yu family's sword. The reverse side of the 3rd piece of paper of the ancestral dragon arts seems to have mentioned it. Qin Yu had carefully read the ancestral dragon arts before. Almost half of the 3 golden pieces of paper of the ancestral dragon arts were internal strength secret books. The other half was the movement technique, 9 cloud dragon appearances, the fist technique flame dragon fist, and the sword technique 9 sun sky splitting sword. The so-called Yu family sword was only described at the end. Qin Yu had not paid much attention to it at that time. At this moment, Qin Yu finally understood that the unremarkable Yu family's sword, in the ancestral dragon arts, was the so-called legendary number 1 assassin's sword technique. The ancestral dragon arts is an internal strength mental cultivation method that can absorb the aura of heaven and earth very quickly. It is definitely the number 1 internal strength mental cultivation method. The movement technique 9 cloud dragon appearances, the fist technique flame dragon fist, and the sword technique 9 sun sky splitting sword are all extremely terrifying and powerful. But they require the internal strength of the ancestral dragon arts to be practiced. Qin Yu can only read, but cannot practice it. Opening the last piece of paper, Qin Yu finally saw some information about the Yu family's sword. There's even a method to practice the Yu family's sword. Qin Yu's eyes brightened. His heart was filled with ecstasy. No one would have thought that the ancestral dragon arts would have a method to practice the Yu family's sword. Qin Yu immediately began to read carefully. But the more he read, the paler his face became. Towards the end, his face even turned a little green. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.